wish I knew how to quit you.
This seems so fun.
There's no place like home.
I'm gonna make him an offer down with you.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Gone with the Wind. This is going to be a fun week to talk about because the shortlists have come out with some interesting things making them and some things not making them. But we've got Lewis here. Lewis, how's it going?
Well, I'm wrapping it up on 2023. I actually saw two movies today to finish my 2023, watching Catching Migration and Anyone But You. So I've basically wrapped it up when it comes to 2023 movies, and now it's just kind of about checking out everybody's best of the year list. And it's kind of crazy because before you know it, we're going to be instead of just hearing from critics, we're going to start hearing from the guilds, and they're majorly important when it comes to what the industry is going to do.
Oh yeah, definitely. And we've got one of the first few guilds this week actually, because the Lyricists and Composers Guild has sort of brought out there. But get to that when we get to that. The first bit of news that dropped in the past week, they did announce the host for the Golden Globes as well. It's going to be some guy called Joe Coy. I don't know who that is. Lewis, what are your thoughts about Joe Coy hosting the Golden Globes?
I vaguely know of him. I know that he had a movie that came out earlier this year. I'm pretty sure I didn't watch it, but I knew that it got some bad reviews. Um, it's to me, I'm just kind of hoping that it goes a little bit better than what happened last year with Jared Carmichael, because I just did not think that hosting from him really translated well with the Globes, and it ended up being more awkward than funny, in my opinion. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to deal um, with it compared to Carmichael, because I know the Globes have been dying. They have been dying to finally get some good reviews for their ceremony.
Yeah. Joe Coy actually had 3 movies come out this year, because he was in The Monkey King. He was also a voice in Leo. He played Coach Kimura, and he was also one of the bartenders in the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, okay. Well, then the movie I'm thinking of may have been come out last year, but I know he recently had a movie that he starred in.
Was the Easter Sunday one?
Yeah, I think this
It would have been last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm not too familiar. Just after the quick Google on him, like he was a panelist on Chelsea lately and has had a few Comedy Central Netflix specials. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping he's a good host. But yeah, I don't have any frame of reference to that. And yeah, I thought I would add. Hopefully, we do hope Dan's going to be here. We haven't really heard from him, so he's hoping he's just asleep. But yes, but moving on to the shortlists. So the first, I'm going to start from the top of the Variety article that I'm looking at here, which is documentary feature. We've talked a bit about documentary here, but the movies that are on shortlist for documentary feature, we've got American Symphony, Apollina, Beyond Utopia, Bobby Ryan, The People's President, Desperate Souls, Dark City, and The Legend of Midnight Cowboy, The Eternal Memory, Four Daughters, Going to Mars, Nicky Giovanni Project, In the Review, Stamped from the Beginning, Still a Michael J. Fox Movie, A Still Small Voice, 32 Sounds, To Kill a Tiger, and 20 Days in Mariupol. But those, what are your thoughts about the shortlist for documentary feature?
Well, first of all, I'm really disappointed that I'm not even going to attempt to try to say what the name of it is, but the menus, the French documentary that was about 4 hours long about the restaurant, unfortunately did not get in here. which is unfortunate because that was basically that's my personal winner for documentary film of the year. But at the same time, it's kind of understandable because I can see a lot of maybe some of the members in the branches who just didn't have time to sit down for 4 hours and read
Yeah.
subtitles. Um, then there's Kokomo City. That one hurts, but I think that was always going to be more of a critics thing than an industry thing. But what stands out to me among what got it, first of all, American Symphony had a really good showing with the short list. This is not the first time we're gonna mention American Symphony, and it's gonna be interesting that if that gets in, that could end up being this sort of crowd pleaser that wins with the overall Academy. Again, if it gets in, because when it comes to the documentary branch, you have no idea what the curveballs are going to throw your way. And then still a Michael J. Fox movie, which is basically turning to the critics' pick. It's winning most of the critics awards for documentary, and it's just ended up becoming this popular sort of populist documentary about a very popular star and actor. And if it is able to actually get a nomination, that also, especially when we go to the entire Academy voting, just not just a highbrow documentary branch, that could end up winning because of with the performance that it's been having, the audience scores it's been having, and of course we have 20 Days of Maripol, which was considered a big contender beyond Utopia. Four Daughters is I know Dan isn't the biggest fan of Four Daughters, but Four Daughters, I mean, it's getting in everywhere. It seems to be becoming a contender to get in. Um, and then it's bizarre, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later, that the mother of all lies gets into, I believe, international, but it doesn't get into documentary. That's really strange to me. But my biggest takeaway here is that if American Symphony or Still get in, if not both, our winner might come from them because American Symphony got a lot of support across other branches and still just seems to be that crowd pleasing movie, maybe in a way that they feel like it's another way to honor Michael J. Fox's career, even though they already gave him an honorary Oscar. So I think this what stands out to me is that we might end up with a kind of populist winner in documentary.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, American Symphony, and we'll definitely get that to a bit later. It's one of those ones that I think has a good chance of getting in, just because, well, one, because I believe the person it's about, John Batiste, is an Oscar winner himself. So, um, so
And the Grammys love him, so there might be some music branch love there.
yeah, but yeah, it's one of those ones like so I'm pretty sure Dan's gonna be upset Pigeons Herald didn't make it in here, but yeah, it's definitely one of those ones that is interesting to see what happens. And I actually found out recently that Bobby Warren, the People's President, is actually on Disney Plus for me, so I'll probably check that out. Um,
One thing that I did want to say real quick is that there's the Midnight Cowboy one. That to me was a big surprise to get in there because a lot of people don't even know that a documentary exists. They actually sent it to us. I forget if it was either Magnolia or IFC sent it to us with their their email with all their digital screeners, and I watched it, and to me it was just okay. It's just your typical documentary about a making of a movie and such. But that's surprising me that it got that far. And given the way the industry loves stories about itself, it could be a potential dark horse, even though I wouldn't bet on it getting in.
oh yeah, I mean that's definitely a factor to take into the account actually because you got about at least three, which is like American 70, which is about Oscar winner. You got still Michael J. Fox, which is about a big name actor, plus Oscar winner, essentially now, and Midnight Cowboy, which is about making movies. So it's like,
Well, make a
so
movie that
those,
won Best Picture too.
yeah. So yeah, there's good. So I think just because of those factors alone, I'd be surprised if any of those three missed. But as you said, like the Midnight Cowboy one is kind of a edge, it's
It's
kind of a dark horse. But
yeah, it's definitely. I'd argue that might be the smallest of the documentaries of all of these. There were so many people that are usually in tune with this stuff that didn't even know that documentary existed.
oh yeah, so but yeah, if the Midnight Cowboy one knocks out one of the, but it's one of those ones like it could be one that knocks out a front runner, which it was, and yeah, Trinidad Maripold just kind of picking up steam at the moment. So I think they'll get him, which essentially would leave that one spot, which is hard to pick. If I was to pick anything, I'll probably go for pick Going to Mars because that seems to be getting a lot of love in various places. Um, Probably won't spend too much on time in this one just because I don't know how much you follow the short subjects. But the on the shortlist for documentary short, we've got the ABCs of book banning, The Barber of Little Rock, Bear, Between Earth and Sky, Black Girls Play the Story of Hand Games, Camp Courage, Deciding Vote, How We Get Free, If Dreams Were Lightning, Real Healthcare Crisis, Island in Between, The Last Repair Shop, The Last Song from Kabul, Nai Nai and Waipo, Oasis, and Rings of Dust. Are you familiar with any of those short documentaries?
I'm vaguely familiar with the ABCs of book banning, and I can see that one potentially getting in, given that some of the stuff that's in the news and stuff like that, that could be something that the Academy kind of tries to get behind to push a message. But other than that, it's these shorts every year they mess around with our prediction accuracy, and I'm like it's gonna be interesting to see which way what I typically do with the shorts is I just kind of see what's going on with the betting markets and just hope that they get more right than wrong.
Yeah, I mean, in the past few years, I've gotten all five on shorts on Gold Derby just because I've taken the Gold Derby five. but um, but moving on to international feature, we've got Amira Katsi from Armenia, The Monk and the Gun from Bhutan, The Promised Land from Denmark, Fallen Leaves from Finland, The Taste of Things from France, The Teacher's Land from Germany, Godland from Iceland, Io Capitano from Italy, Perfect Days from Japan, Totem from Mexico, The Mother of All Lies from Morocco, Society of the Snow from Spain, Four Daughters from Tunisia, and 20 Days of America from Ukraine, and The Zone of Interest from UK. This is an interesting bunch because you've got at least three documentaries, so you could um, so there's essentially you could get like three documentaries in this category alone. But what are your thoughts about international feature shortlist?
Yeah, I mean, I guess some of the notable misses were about dry grasses, but that's a long movie. I mean, I saw that movie and it's long. I know it's got its passionate supporters. Concrete Utopia, I did never got around to seeing, but I know that it's got a big fan base out there. But it missed. And then there's the peasants, and which tells me that if the peasants couldn't get in here, it's probably a long shot to get into animated feature. And again, the problem with the peasants, I think, is that it's so beautifully animated, but the problem is that it's a depressing story to follow, and so I wonder if that may have sort of cost it. Um, Looking at the others, there's a lot of like things that I expected. Totem, Perfect Days, which I'm getting a little worried about Perfect Days because there's been so much. You look at these critic groups where they don't have to worry about what the country submitted. They're usually going with like Boy and the Heron and Godzilla over Perfect Days when they're picking like the Japanese film or even Monster. So as someone who really liked Perfect Days, I'm happy that it got it through here. Four Daughters, again, that just goes to show you how popular that documentary is. Sorry, Dan, it's turning out to be a thing. Zone of Interest, which is probably you would think the front runner at the moment, especially since it's got a shot to get into picture. Promised Land, I'm very happy to see Promised Land in here. Unfortunately, I don't think enough people have gotten to check it out. But then, of course, there's the whole sort of elephant in the room with Society of the Snow, because Society of the Snow showed up in other places. Now, so did Zone of Interest, but Society of the Snow showed up other places. Of course, everybody's wondering, is this going to be this year's All Quiet on the Western Front? I'm not quite there because I want to see what happens with the BAFTA long list. Because the BAFTA long list after the Oscar shortlist was when we started to really realize, okay, All Quiet on the Western Front is having a potential moment here. Um, but I would keep an eye on Society of Snow potentially sort of coming from behind and taking Zone of Interest buzz. But at the moment, I would think that Zone of Interest is the movie to beat here.
Yeah, yeah, I think Zone of Interest is the just based on this, I think it's the only one that I think is the one that I think is the most confident that it's going to make in. But that being said, like Fallen Leaves has got bit of love recently because
Yeah.
it got a few Golden Globe nominations, surprisingly. So
I mean, I've seen some people who are calling it. I've actually seen one or two people who are actually calling it their favorite movie of the year. So I will keep an eye on that movie.
yeah, but yeah, I honestly can't remember what Sean said that might show up on the shortlist, because he gave a good rundown when we talked about international feature. But yeah, as a lot of these as some of these the ones that we kind of expected to see pop up and all that. So yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't.
um,
It doesn't feel like there were some like misses, notable misses like that I mentioned, but for the most part, I don't think we got like a big wow. You know, like when Tatan miss, like we haven't gotten like a big
yeah,
wow.
oh yeah. Um, but moving on to makeup and hairstyling, on the shortlist, we've got Beau is Afraid, Ferrari, Golda, Killers of the Flower Moon, Last Voyage of the Demeter, Maestro, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Society of the Snow. Notable misses here. Obviously Barbie is one of them. But it's one of those ones like I know a lot of people are shocked about it. I'm not overly surprised about it because as well, for most cases, the makeup is good. It's pretty much the standard kind of doll makeup you'd expect. It's more of the costume set design kind of role anyway.
I think what caused Barbie, and I was initially shocked, but I've gotten kind of more like understandable what happened. It's more hairstyling, and traditionally that's a little. There's so much focus on makeup instead of the hairstyling part. So, because look, I'm personally not the biggest fan of Barbie, and even I have it in my makeup and hairstyling personal ballot because they used a bunch of wigs. I thought they did a great job with that, but there just seems to be some bias when it comes to makeup and hairstyling branch with makeup and prosthetics, even though there's still hairstyling is still a very important part. And I think that's ultimately what ended up costing it. Um, and also, I would like to point out real quick for people who are freaking out about this screwed up Barbie's chances. I mean, I think Barbie could have had a stronger showing, but it still had a strong showing. And let's not forget, last year everybody was freaking out when Everything Everywhere didn't get into makeup, or I believe Shape of Water didn't even get into the makeup short list, and people were freaking out. And those two movies went on to win Best Picture. So I think this is just sort of like a branch thing where they just did it because if I remember right, yeah, Priscilla didn't get in here talking about hairstyling. I think
yeah,
they just ended up having a bias against movies that focus more on hairstyling.
I don't know. Like, I didn't think about Priscilla not getting in until you mentioned it. But I mean, I also haven't seen Priscilla, so I don't know too much about how much different hairstyling is in Priscilla.
Oh,
But
it's a major part of the movie. Like so I like a lot of people are surprised at this year, but again, I just think that they getting into here with hairstyling is just alone. It's just tough. they're suckers for the prosthetics.
Yeah, well, I mean, on that note, the big one that I'm surprised about not being in here is actually Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah,
Volume 3.
yeah,
Especially with what they did with um Chakrati Iraji's character alone, the High Evolutionary, like because I mean that wasn't visual effects, that was purely like prosthetics and makeup, and that's a big one I'm surprised about not getting in here is and I thought if any superhero movie had a chance, that was going to be the one, but it is what it is. I'm happy. I'm kind of happy with what did get in because, like, talking about prosthetics, like, I kind of expected like Ferrari, Maestro, both to get in. Napoleon, Oppenheimer are both period pieces, so it's not just like one person. And that it's the everyone else is here for that from that period. Poor things I kind of expected. Last Voyage of Demeter was a nice surprise personally.
yeah.
Like that's not a movie that I thought would have gotten at any stage, but yeah. But Liz, what are your thoughts about the shortlist makeup and hairstyling?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about Barbie, and that was probably hairstyling, and then of course, Color Purple missed here, which was a little bit of a surprise. But the Color Purple right now is such a big enigma because there's some good things that have happened for it, and there's some bad things that have happened for it. Like it's really going to be a close call if it is able to squeeze into Best Picture because we right now we did have the good news for the movie that it is doing really good at the box office. I mean, it ended up, I believe, being number two all time on Christmas Day. It made $18 million on Christmas Day alone, but then it has had some major misses. And with the with the short list, it's kind of like a they darned if they do, darned if they don't, because they missed in certain places here that would have been nice for it to show up, but they also made it in two other places that it's good to see a musical get in there. And this was one of the places missing in makeup. But again, Color Purple is, I think that was more because that movie's generally more about the hairstyling. The makeup is really only towards the end when the characters have aged for like the final scene. Um, Guardians 3, I don't understand how that didn't get in there. All I can think of is that maybe there was like this push by them to look at the more fresh ideas and more fresh movies, and maybe there was some kind of bias against franchises here. Naya not getting in is interesting because it might show some weakness for Annette Bening to get pushed by the industry to get into actress. Um, Golda getting in is interesting. It makes me almost wonder if we could see something crazy like Helen Mirren getting into SAG, but not necessarily getting anywhere else. Because even though the movie's not generally well known, I thought it was just okay at best. But the makeup work there is really good. Killers of the Flower Moon's interesting to get in. Might show some strength for the movie. Oppenheimer, Maestro just goes to show you that Bradley Cooper's probably still in it because of the makeup and that combination there. And of course, Killian Murphy could end up winning too, and Oppenheimer getting in here could still show that. Poor Things doesn't surprise me. Society of the Snow's very interesting. Again, we got to keep an eye on that movie to see if it could be this year's All Quiet on the Western Front. But yeah, I think we kind of hit it on the major misses. It's to me, I think probably Oppenheimer, Maestro, Poor Things, and maybe Killers are probably in. And then the question is what the fifth one is going to be. I could see a situation where it just becomes kind of biased towards the best picture contenders, and then there's like this one non-picture contender that squeezes in.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's one of those ones like talking about like actors and that I could see maybe Ferrari actually being the one that gets in, and
Yeah,
that what gets Adam Driver and nominated again. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like I'd love to. I mean, I haven't seen Golda. I don't know too much about it, but I wouldn't be opposed if Helen Mirren gets a nomination, another nomination.
I mean, look, I thought the movie was okay at best, mediocre at worst, and kind of forgettable. But the makeup work that they did on her is crazy. Like that what they pulled off with her.
Yeah. But moving talking about color purple in places that could have it probably should have gotten. We're moving on to the sound category, which quite often is they do love the musicals in there, which there isn't any in this. But in the on the shortlist for sound, we've got Barbie, The Creator, Ferrari, The Killer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. So like for me, like off the bat, like Color Purple missing sound is a bit surprising to me because like quite often, like when it comes to musicals, like you would think that a lot of musicals would get into sound as well, for that same reason. But but yeah, Lewis, what are your thoughts about the sound category?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, John Wick Chapter 4 not getting in here is criminal, if you ask me. But I mean, that movie just, for all the love it has for its text and such, and even a lot of even some highbrow critics pushed it. I mean, it actually ended up getting a supporting actor nomination with the Florida Film Critics Circle, and I believe they gave it best cinematography. Even for all of that, the movie is just not necessarily translating with to looking like it has any chance to show up at Oscar. And I don't think that's that industry voters dislike the movie. I just think a lot of them haven't even gotten around to watching it because it's not necessarily the kind of movie that they prioritize usually. Um, it, the creator getting in here is interesting because when we get to VFX, I think there is a world where VFX can end up being this back and forth battle between the creator and Godzilla, which missed here. Now, I didn't expect Godzilla to get into sound. There's some people who apparently thought that it could. Even though it is in my personal ballot for sound, I think that movie's all about whether it gets into VFX. But the creator getting in here is interesting because I think the same narrative that Godzilla has, the creator has about what they did with the budget that they had. Um, Barbie getting in here is also interesting and might be a really good sign they could get in for editing. And if Barbie gets into editing and gets into director, and if it can get into DGA, and if it can actually pull off getting to the BAFTA 5, as someone who has a bet going that it won't win Best Picture, at that point, you have to start taking serious the possibility that it's a potential top 5 contender that can maybe have a path there. So it's very interesting to see Barbie getting to sound here in the short list. The Killer getting in was pretty cool because the sound work in that movie is really good. Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer getting in there is interesting, could show support. Zone of Interest getting in here is interesting as well and could show that it might have the goods to squeeze into picture. It is noticeable that Society of the Snow, which had a really good day with Shortlist, still did miss here, whereas like All Quiet did not miss here last year. So that might show a little bit of the ceiling there that maybe it's not going to end up being the next All Quiet. And again, we got to wait to see what happens with the BAFTA long list. Um, my takeaway here is that this potentially could be teasing us into what could get potentially into editing, knowing the history of sound and editing sometimes tying together, and if the creator being potentially a really strong contender to be our VFX winner.
Um, but um, but yeah, um, I don't really have much more to say about this. Like, but you kind of hit the nail on the head on most points.
And I will say it is, and we're going to talk about some things here that might be potential rays of hope for Color Purple, but it is concerning for Color Purple's chances that they didn't get in here because musicals tend to get into at least a sound short list.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those ones, but it's one of those ones, and but it's also one of the ones. Maybe it just shows how strong some of these other ones are as well. Because I actually just finished watching Maestro a little bit ago. It's like I wasn't overly fond of the movie, but I do think the sound mixing, especially with the concert scenes alone was great. So I'm not surprised to see that here. And Ferrari for the same reason, like car movies seem to get in here a lot too. Like
Yeah.
Ford v Ferrari is a big example of a recent one that did it at so yeah, a lot of these are not overly surprising. And as much as I love Barbie, I kind of don't know if that will be one of the final five in sound. Personally, but I do think it's a good movie. I just don't think it was a very like with the sound design.
I think the fact that it was almost sort of a semi musical might be helping it there.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like if this category is split into mixing and sound design, then I think I could definitely see Barbie getting into sound design, but not mixing. But it is what it is. But yeah, moving on to original score. On the shortlist for original score, we've got American Fiction, American Symphony, Barbie, The Boy and the Heron, which I believe is a first time nomination for Ghibli, from what I've heard in this category. Um, The Color Purple, Elemental, The Holdovers, Indiana Jones and the Jar of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Saltburn, Society of the Snow, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and The Zone of Interest. Nothing too surprising that it didn't make it in here. But
Well,
it's
some people were really freaking out about Past Lives missing here, but I honestly never thought it was like a player for score anyway.
yeah. I mean, like Past Lives, it does have a good score, but compared to some of these other bigger scores that came out, and we'll get more into this when we get into the Society of Lyricists and Composers as well. There's a few of these did appear there as well. But I mean, Boy and the Heron getting in is really nice. Like, that's been picking up a lot of steams on the critic side. Like, 'cause I know some critics groups that they've had this in score as well. And
I
and
mean, it just pulled off history and won the Florida Film Critics Circle Best Picture. Like
yeah,
the support for this movie is getting to the point where Spider Verse is still the favorite in animated feature. I think because it's still winning most of the critic prizes, but there is such support there for Boy and the Heron that it could potentially be giving Spider Man a little bit of trouble.
yeah. I mean, well, I think for this category though, I think Spider Verse I think it's still safe to kind of say this will get in. Um, Indiana Jones getting in like was a little bit surprising to me, just because, but it shows that the Oscars still really love John Williams. I don't see the Dial of Destiny making the final five for original score, just because a lot of the score was pretty much the same beats and stuff that you know it from other Indiana Jones movies. But that being,
But it is John Williams, and they love
well,
nominating him.
oh yeah, no, I know, but yeah,
Uh,
but
I just wanted to make the point that Color Purple here again, like one step back, not getting to sound, one step forward, getting to score. I didn't expect even on its best day to get into score, which is interesting. It kind of reminds me of last year where I actually didn't expect Everything Everywhere to go far with score, and it ended up being one of those movies that the song branches really responded well to, like more than I thought they would. So it's going to be interesting to see if Color Purple can get into score, even though I think it's a long shot for it. Barbie getting into score is interesting because I got to tell you, a lot of people have been complaining about this getting that Barbie doesn't necessarily have like it doesn't have the most like its score. I wouldn't say that it's got the volume of score in that movie is not the same as other contenders, and I think that's what some people have been complaining about. That could also just be a showing of the strength of the movie. Um, Elemental, Boy and the Heron, Spider-Man's. It's interesting to see three animated movies get in here. Um, Society of the Snow is interesting to see it get in here. Zone of Interest is interesting as we're trying to figure out what's going to be the international film that gets into picture. Um, One last point, I think it's really interesting. American Fiction got shortlisted here. American Fiction has been showing up to at least get recognition in score, and it's going to be that's interesting because we've been thinking that American Fiction is probably just like picture, screenplay, maybe actor and supporting actor. Like maybe it could actually show up in a tech or two. Maybe it actually might be able to pull that off. So it's interesting to me that it was able to get shortlisted here. But I think right now, with the exception of maybe some potential strength for Killers of the Flower Moon, given that the narrative behind that, given the posthumous narrative behind that. But Oppenheimer seems still like the one to beat here.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those ones. Like, I think the three ones that we're going to see in the final five is Spider Verse, Oppenheimer, and Killers.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Which is just going to leave two spots, um, and we'll get more into it when we get to the Society of Lyrics and Composers, because I think there is a world where American fiction can get in, because that's been showing up a lot for school. And I think even American Symphony, just like what I said with documentary, I think
Thank God you mentioned that because I totally
um,
forgot about that. Yeah, that goes to show you how much love there is in the music branch there for Batiste, and it's if I'm telling you, man, if it gets nominated for documentary and it also shows up in score and song, which we'll talk about later, like it could end up being the front runner.
yeah, I mean, and I think, as I said, with the when we get to, actually, if it's at the next one, yeah, it is. Song's the next one anyway, so I'll get more into that, because it brings up a point to what I kind of brought up earlier when talking about a certain song that didn't make it in here. um, but moving into original song, we've got "It Never Went Away" from American Symphony, "Dear Alien Who Art in Heaven" from Asteroid City, "Dance the Night," "I'm Just Ken," and "What Was I Made For," all from Barbie. We all know only two of those can make it on. "Keep It Moving" and "Superpower One" from Color Purple, "The Fire Inside" from Flaming Hot, "High Life" from Floor and Sun, "Meet in the Middle" also from Floor and Sun, "Can't Catch Me Now" from The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, um, Rav Hazahib, "A Song for My People" from Killers of the Flower Moon. I know I butchered this name, but "Quiet Eyes" from Past Lives, "Road to Freedom" from Rustin, which I believe is a Bruce Springsteen song. No,
No, it
it's Lenny Kravitz.
yeah.
And "Am I Dreaming" from Spider Verse. So no Peaches, which that doesn't bode well for Super Mario's getting into animated. Because my point is, like, if Peaches could get in here, then it probably has a shot at animation, but that's not going to happen here.
And people would say, well, they're different branches, but what people have to understand is the difference with animated features, that yes, there's the animation branch, but you are allowed, given that it's about overall other movies, you are allowed to ask for a ballot for animated features. So there are some people who are not into animated branch who vote for animated feature, and it does kind of show you that Mario may be a big hit with audiences, but it doesn't seem to be like being taken serious by the industry
Um,
because Peaches got in everywhere.
yeah,
That's why I was a little bit surprised. Like if you would have told me before we got award season began, I would have said, "Well, that's too much of a jokey song," but it actually has been getting in everywhere, which made it a little bit of a surprise that it didn't get shortlisted.
yeah, like, I was a little bit surprised, but on that same note, it's one of those ones, like, because I think even Dan said it, earlier, was like that he only sees one of those jokey songs between "I'm Just Kidding" and Peaches making it in,
Yeah, yeah.
and they just really and they
And
just
Dear Alien is sort of a jokey song.
yeah, but Dear Alien was the one I'm actually surprised made it in because even though I do like that song from Natural City, I didn't expect it to get in here at all. Um,
I mean, it's
but
not. It's nice to see Florence Son get two in there because
yeah,
I thought that was like a movie that maybe like a lot of people didn't even ever get around to watching. So it's kind of nice to see not just one but two of them get in there. And again, Color Purple, this weird thing where there's good things and bad things happening for it. It misses sound, it misses other makeup and hair, but then it gets into score, and not one but two songs get in here. So
yeah.
it just continues to be an enigma and a close call for whether that's going to get into uh, Best Picture. And it is interesting, again, bringing up American Symphony. I mean, if that gets into documentary and song, I mean that would just goes to show you how strong that documentary is with the industry.
But yeah, so I did a bit of research when the shortlist came out, and so none of the Hunger Games songs have actually made it into the final five for original song. So whether or not Olivia Rodrigo's "Can't Catch Me Out Now" is going to be that one that kind of breaks into here, I don't know.
I think I might be wrong about this, but I think isn't this like the first time they even made the short list?
I don't know. I didn't go that far into my search.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
could have swore that I saw someone say that it's like the first time they even made it
uh,
to the short list.
yeah, I mean, I mean, probably like if it is, then that's kind of surprising me because like you would think like a big name artist like Taylor Swift or Lord could help get that song into there.
Yeah,
Um, but um, but when it comes to the final five, come the nominations, I think the two from Baby that are going to get in will be I'm Just Ken and What Was I Made For, because they seem to be the
yeah.
two which is getting a lot all that love. And yeah, I
I
know
think the
Dan.
problem with Dance the Night is that for whatever reason, it's just not being. Whereas those other two are being linked more to the movie. I feel like Dance the Night is being more linked to sort of like a radio hit.
Yeah, and yeah, I think maybe we get at least one of the Color Purple and one of the Fluence Sun songs in. Although that
When we're watching on nomination morning, if it's borderline whether Color Purple's going to get in, as if it makes it into song or not, might end up being a big tell of whether it could sneak into picture.
yeah, but based on how much love the Rustin song is getting, I could see that maybe getting being one of that five. Um, but yeah, I can't remember the name of the director, but when it comes to Florence Sun, like that director wasn't nominated for Sing Street either. So whether or not um a song from Florence Sun can make it in, or if it's a case of they end up splitting votes because they can't decide on which one of these songs they like the more, and then it just leaves room for these other ones to kind of burst through.
Yeah,
And I'm going to say the same thing about Color Purple. Like I think that's got the potential to do the exact same thing
yeah.
to it.
I mean, like I
And
said, on when we get to the song category, if Color Purple can get a song in, there might be indicative of whether it's a sign if it could get into picture. Just like last year when we saw the Everything Everywhere song get in, and as soon as you saw that, it's like, okay, yeah, they're nominating it all over the place.
yeah, and it's just one of those ones like I don't remember that Spider Verse song at all. Like I'm kind of surprised that it got even shortlisted. um,
Oh, I wanted to bring up real quick that well, Dan's gonna be hurting because gonna be you from 80 for Brady didn't miss, and it does look like Flaming Hot is the Flaming Hot song is gonna be Diane Warren's ticket if they do
yeah,
go for her again. Which I don't know. It's kind of hard not to say that they won't go for her. Um, I Steel Elemental missing with Steal the Show. I don't want to say that's necessarily panic button in terms whether Elemental is going to get into animated feature, but it is a potential sign of whether it's maybe not as much of a lock to get in there as some might think. Um, the Wish from Wish not getting in. I honestly think they could have campaigned a better song than that. And Wonka missing with A World of Your Own. I wonder if a lot of them have even been watching Wonka. I mean, look, I think Wonka's not your favorite movie of the year, Malcolm. I really liked Wonka. I've seen it twice now. I actually liked it a little bit more, even more on rewatch. It's in my top 25. It might even rank higher through the years. I think it's a really good musical, but I do think that they could have campaigned a better song than "A World of Your Own." I thought of Your Own's a good song, but I feel like there were other sort of more catchier songs that they could have campaigned than that one.
Well, I mean, see, for me, I really love the World is Your Own. Like, I would put it as the like. I think it's one of those ones I could campaign for two ones. I'm just trying to remember the name of it. It's the I think it's the Death by a Chocolatey one. Just right. Just, I mean, they could have campaigned at least. I don't know if they did campaign multiple songs. But like I really did like the Welcome to Scrub It song, the Scrub one. And actually, I think the Sweet Tooth song I think is also really good. The one that's done by
Oh
I think
yeah,
Michael T, and that is really good.
I actually had that song stuck in my head for a while.
Yeah. Um, but I don't think it's necessarily a bit so I just think it's a case of maybe it's a very just because I think it's just a really strong year for
Yeah,
songs as it is. I think
I hope it's not a red flag for its chances of getting to like costume design or production design because that movie had great costume and production design.
oh yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a red flag. I just think it's just because it's a very strong year in song. But I would easily take anything from Wonka over the Spider Verse song.
Yeah,
But
me
yeah,
too.
um, but it's one of those ones like even I think I said it before is like um I'm I'm actually not surprised that um like no song from a Disney produced movie made it onto the shortlist at all. um
I'm not surprised that Wish missed. To be honest with you, I'm not even that surprised that Little Mermaid missed because it's not like the new songs were getting praised or anything like that. But Elemental miss. I know you weren't that crazy about the song, Malcolm, but like Elemental missing was kind of weird to me. I thought it would at least show up in the short list, especially given that a lot of people have been assuming that that's going to get nominated for animated feature. Um, so it is interesting and something to keep an eye out on if there's like a lot of Disney fatigue going on.
well yeah, I mean I think there's still I mean I still think there's still a slight chance that Wish could still get into animated feature. But
But would you agree with me that it seems like Elemental is more likely to get in at the moment than Wish?
well, oh yeah, I would still say Elemental is more likely just because it's the one out of the two that's getting more love in the critics side of things. But um, because I mean, it's one of those ones like I do think there's a and we'll get more into this when the Eddie nominations come out because they're generally a good indicator of which of those two is going to be favorite.
Hmm.
But that being said, talking about Disney, we're going to move over to animated short film. And nominated in the category for animated short film, we've got Boom, Eva, Humo, and in brackets Smoke, I'm Hip, A Kind of Testament, Koa Quarter, Dog Apartment, Letter to a Pig, 95 Senses, Once Upon a Studio, which is the Disney one they released Our Uniform, Pachyderm, Pete, 27, War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko, and Wild Summon. The only one of these I'm even familiar with is Once Upon a Studio, which I'm honestly kind of surprised that it kind of counted because, like, it's more a live action short, but and it is more of a hybrid. And I'd argue it's more live action than animated, but it is what it is. I just because it's Disney, and I do think there's a chance it's probably gonna get in that 5, but Lewis, have you seen any of these other animated shorts?
No, again with the shorts, it's like you don't really know much about them until we finally get a short list to look at. But I'll tell you what, Once Upon a Studio, if it can get in, and we'll see if the animated branch put it in there, because for animated short, I believe that's strictly the animated branch, whereas the animated feature, other voters are allowed to take part in it. Um, if it can get in, I think it has a chance to win because it's the most easily digestible. There's going to be a lot of nostalgia involved. It's a really critically praised short as well. So I can see a lot of people getting mad and saying, "Oh, we're just going to give this to this Disney short where they're just marketing stuff from the past or whatever." But I will keep an eye out on that potentially, sort of, if it could get into the five, if it could get into the five, because then you go from everybody voting, and if
Yeah,
everybody's voting, I can see them kind of just defaulting to Once Upon a Studio.
uh, um, but moving on to live action short film, we've got, The After, the Anne Frank gift shop, and Avocado Pit. Bienvenidos a Los Angeles, Dead Cat, Good Boy, Invincible, Invisible Border, Night of Fortune, The One Note Man, Red, White, and Blue, The Shepherd, Strange Way of Life, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, and Yellow. I mean, um, similar to with Disney, with the animated short, I'm only familiar with the Henry Sugar one, and I think this is Wes Anderson's chance to win here because I don't see Asteroid City getting a lot of love unless it somehow gets into SOG. Um, but um, but yeah, I don't know any of these other shorts. Lewis, any thoughts on live action short?
The other one that I'm aware of is Strange Way of Life. That's the Almodovar one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm not sure if that's gonna get in there because I know there's some people who have a lot of complaints about that one, that they feel like it's sort of like just a pitch concept for a would-be movie. Um, Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, if it gets into the five, like Once Upon a Studio, I can see a situation where it's the entire Academy's voting and they just decide this is our chance to give Wes Anderson an Oscar. Like, so I would, if Wonderful Sir of Henry Sugar makes it into the five, it might just end up being easily the front runner, because they'll do this. They will do this. People get caught up and say, "Oh, wouldn't it have been great if West could win for like a feature film?" They will. They don't care. The industry will do this if they get the chance.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of those ones like because I think if Henry Sugar gets shortlisted, I think that's probably what wins just because it's the one people know. um, but if Strange Way of Life also gets shortlisted, then I think that's the only one that could potentially give it some sort of competition.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know much about these other shorts, and yeah, just one of those ones. Like, I think anytime like there's a short from a big name studio or some or a familiar thing, then I think that's the one that often ends up winning because I think Pixar and Disney have run shorts in the past, just because of that. Um,
I mean, two
I mean,
years ago, I want to say the short live action short went to it got Riz Ahmed his Oscar. Like they're suckers for that kind of stuff.
yeah, but moving on to visual effects, we've got The Creator, Godzilla Minus One, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Napoleon, Poor Things, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, Society of the Snow, and Spider-Verse. Um, a lot. None of these are overly surprising. Um, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 being the Marvel representative, makes sense. Godzilla Minus One just based on everything people have said about it and the fact that it looks really good for a $15 million budget makes sense. The creator makes sense. Indiana Jones and John Desi is probably purely because of the de-aging thing on Harrison Ford at the start. Plus maybe some subtler effects throughout the movie. And Spider Verse, I'm pretty sure that's purely because of like Spider Punk and all that. So it's what it is. Um, it's I kind of have a hard job picking what I think could be the five here. But yeah, Lewis, what are your thoughts on the visual effects shortlist?
Well, I mean, at the moment, it feels like it's going to be a battle between Creator and Godzilla for the win. Because if you look at how things have gone so far, the most wins has been this back and forth battle between those two. Um, I still think I'm actually more confident the Creator gets in than Godzilla gets in, even though I think Godzilla could have a shot to win if it does get in, because it is a I think it's not an Americanized Godzilla movie. It's a Japanese movie, and international films rarely get into visual effects. I think it's only happened like once or twice before. So it's that being said, it does benefit from the fact that it's a very well known IP. That's gonna help it a lot. And on top of the fact that the movie has been getting a lot of praise, the narrative about it being $50 million, even though apparently the director came out and said that they alluded that it might have actually been less than that. But then the creator also has a good narrative about how much they did with their budget. Um, uh, Guardians 3, usually a Marvel movie gets in here. In this, it looks like it might be the only chance for a Marvel movie to get in here. Poor Things, that if it gets in there could potentially win, given the tie between the VFX winner and a Best Picture nomination in the past. Um, Society of the Snow getting in here is very interesting to keep an eye on as well. And Across the Spider Verse, if it gets into visual effects, and that might mean it has a real shot to maybe sneak into Best Picture. But again, just like the Godzilla trying to get into an international film, it's very hard for an animated movie to get into visual effects. So we'll see what's going on, but it does feel like it's a little bit more wide open this year when it comes to visual effects.
Um, but we've got Dan here now. But Dan, what are your thoughts about the visual effects shortlist? I can run down the movies again.
Yeah, the one that bothered me the most is that Dungeons and Dragons wasn't on the list. I thought that had some really great visual effects this year that I like. Some of the visual effects of some of these movies aren't were kind of a little wonky and stuff. So I was like, I thought Dungeons and Dragons had great visual effects, but you don't know what these people are looking for. Maybe they're looking for more of the subtle stuff. But everybody and their brother, like Lewis here, is talking about the -1 Godzilla -1. So I guess that's probably going to get in. It seems like sometimes these word of mouth things really catch on, and I guess that's a big word of mouth thing. I haven't seen the movie, and they said the budget was like $15 million. So people are impressed the fact that the visual effects on Godzilla is really, really good considering the budget's so small. And so that's the kind of thing that impresses people a lot, and that's what catches people's eyes.
Yeah, I mean, like when we talked about that list of the 20, like Dungeons and Dragons was one that I thought could have gotten in, but it was a very strong list as it was. It was going to be tough, and I think if it wasn't for the word of mouth of Godzilla -1, then I think Godzilla -1 probably took what might have been Dungeons and Dragons' spot in the short list. So that's, but But yeah, is there anything else about any of the other shortlists that caught your attention, or you just want to move on to next topic?
Yeah, well, as far as the the shorts, the long lists or what are they called? They're called the short lists or the long lists.
The
Short
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 lists. Yeah,
lists.
short list.
long lists are BAFTA.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So is song. I mean, I was really upset by Peaches not making it in. Obviously you guys know my stance on 80 for Brady. I thought that was a great song. I love that song. But all the crap, everybody's been giving me crap. I guess 80 for Brady ain't gonna win. Well, guess what? Diane Warren still got it in there for Flamin' Hot. And I listened to the song, and it's actually not a bad song. It's actually a decent little song. I mean, I just don't see 15 Barbie songs, getting nominated and then not 80 for Brady or one of these other good things. Only two of them can get nominated for the Oscar, so we're gonna have three spots. But you can almost guarantee Flamin' Hot's gonna get in there with her track record of getting in her Diane Warren's track record of getting one of her songs in there. So now you narrowed it down to two songs. I'll be honest. I think Rustin, Floor and Son, High Life, and the Lenny Kravitz song are going to get in. I mean, if either of those don't get in and some other songs get in, I mean, I was like, I'm not going to be a happy camper with the song category because I just don't think these Barbie songs are all that in a box of chocolates. You know what I mean? I just don't think they're that good. And I mean, I like Ken. I think Ken's a fun song, and that's why I would have Ken in there, but like Billie Eilish and all them, they already won Oscars. Last year Lady Gaga got nominated again, but she didn't win, which was good for me as far as I'm concerned. I don't want these people to keep winning Oscars when someone like, Lenny Kravitz could win, or John Carney could win again after all these years for Flora and Son for High Life. You know what I mean? I think High Life is a great song. Lewis, haven't you heard High Life? Isn't the High Life a really good song?
It was in my personal song ballot.
Yeah. So I mean, these are the kind of things that I say to myself, what's the mindset going in on some of these types of things? You know what I mean? And but we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll probably be bickering and complaining once the actual nominations come out, which we have like a month still. Because what is it, the 24th, 25th, somewhere in there?
Yeah, about a month. But before you know it, I think about a week or two that we're going to start getting more. The industry's going to start getting their nominations out. We're going to start hearing from guilds and BAFTA and stuff like that.
Um,
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, like, if 80 for Brady was released closer to the end of the year, then I would have been with you there. I think it's just more the fact that because it was really early on in the year, and a lot of people probably forgotten about that movie by now.
Yeah, I had a feeling
that's the only reason I didn't see it getting.
No, I agree. I actually agree 100% with what your assessment is there, because I think you're right. I think February is so long ago. It's so long ago. And there's been so many movies since then that it makes. But my thing is this. I always thought Hulu movies were considered technical movies of the year. That movies like, because I'm a fan of the Boston Strangler, and what's the one with Caitlin Dever, the horror movie with Caitlin Dever, and they're technically considered streaming movies, not theatrical.
I have an answer. I have an answer for this, Dan, because someone actually asked Clayton Davis about this. Apparently, Flaming Hot did have a qualifying screening in Burbank, so there are people who actually got to see it in a theater. So apparently that's why it qualifies.
Well, I saw it in a theater too.
Oh, okay, yeah. So but you saw it as a screening or like an actual like.
Well, the Enzion that does a local art house theater here in Orlando they do what's called the Florida Film Festival, and that they screened Flamin' Hot it played at the South by Southwest Film Festival as well.
Okay,
it played at some film festivals. So I guess that's what they're considering as part of.
according to Clayton Davis, and I trust Clayton, he said that that they apparently there was a qualifying run in Burbank, where I guess for what was it, 2 weeks or whatever the qualifying has to
Yeah,
be, where they it was actually available for
Okay.
at a theater.
All right. Well, that explains it then.
yeah. I mean, and it's one of those ones like um, when it comes to song and um, like as I said earlier, like for both Color Purple and Flaming Hot, and Floor and Sun, and to maybe a lesser extent Barbie, like Color Purple and Floor and Sun could have a chance of either one of those songs is going to get really loved, or they're going to end up splitting it, and both songs end up missing. So,
Yeah, I don't know why they put two in there. I don't. I know there's. I've been listening to the songs. See, that Malcolm, I have a Spotify list, right? And I got all the songs on the Spotify list, and I've been listening to all the songs. And then one by one, I've been eliminating the ones I didn't like that much.
um,
I don't like this. I don't like the other song that as much as High Life, for
yeah,
Florence. So hopefully that doesn't hurt it. But you're right. That could happen. The Barbie
yeah,
songs could all split, and the Flora and Sun songs could split, and that could hurt. That could hurt them. You're right.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones like I'm fairly certain, like I'm just kidding. What was I made for? Those are two that I'm fairly certain are probably the two that it's going to make him business. I think they're the two that are really loved from the out of the three. And it's one of those ones like I don't have a problem like um I don't have problems with these people getting multiple nominations because I think even if they get in, um I don't think the Billie Eilish song would is going to necessarily win anyway, because I think it's probably going to be I'm Just Kidding if anything out of the two. But anyway, that's a really good transition to moving on to Society of Lyrics and Composers. um um But moving on to the Society of Lyrics and Composers, so outstanding original score for a studio movie. We've got Joe Hisashi from The Boy and the Heron, Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer, Laura Cartman for American Fiction, Robbie Robertson for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Anthony Rillis from Saltburn. And it's worth noting that 4 out of these 5 also on the shortlist for score. So um, I'd say they might be really safe, but Lewis, what are your thoughts about these 5 nominations for score for a studio movie?
Well, again, probably Oppenheimer's going to flex his muscles. So if Killers of the Flower Moon wins here, that because I do think Killers might be a dark horse to win score with the narrative of Robbie Robertson's passing. Um, but again, American Fiction gets it. You weren't here then when we were talking about this, but it's interesting to me that American Fiction score has been showing up places, and it's potential sign that the movie might actually get a tech nom or two on top of the screenplay and the acting. So there's just I think it's because the score is just able to stand out compared to the other contenders because it's got that like you said, Dan, that jazzy score that is not necessarily what the other contenders are doing. And it could also just be love for the movie itself that's helping it as well. To me, the biggest standout is, of course, Oppenheimer's in there because we know Oppenheimer's arguably the front runner and Killers is right on its heels. But again, American Fiction has been showing up where it can when it comes to score.
Yeah,
Uh,
the score is really good in American Fiction. I was thinking, that maybe Boys on the Boat would pop up in some places, but the movie has just been getting such divisive that people aren't listening to the score by Alexander Desplat. But yeah, that's what happens a lot of times, like in the technical categories, like the score and some of these other categories, editing or sound. Like a lot of times, these best picture contenders will go along in these categories, and I guess that's what's happening with American Fiction with score. It keeps going on, but yeah, this is Goranson all the way. I mean, looks like people said like his career was kind of an accident, and his stuff with the Mandalorian and of course Black Panther. I mean, the guy's really turned out to be a great composer. / conductor, whatever you want to call it, but with the posthumous thing going on here, you can't count that out for Robbie Robertson. You just cannot count the posthumous thing out for Robbie Robertson. But one of the biggest narratives in the last however many years for a posthumous Oscar still didn't translate to an Oscar. And we all know what that was with Chadwick Boseman. So even though this is a narrative, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. They might want someone up to walk up there and accept it instead of a wife or a relative or something, or a filmmaker.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Well, to be fair though, Ma Rainey didn't get into picture, whereas Killers is absolutely going to get into picture.
Yeah,
But I do still think Oppenheimer's the one to beat in score.
yeah.
But the one thing that surprised me for this category is that The Boy and the Heron was the animated nomination and not Spider-Verse, which kind of makes me a little bit worried for Spider-Verse getting into that 5 now, because as I said, Boy and the Heron was also on that shortlist.
I think, like I said, Boy and the Heron is giving Spider-Man trouble. It might even be why Spider-Man doesn't get into Best Picture, because there might actually be some people trying to make Boy and the Heron the animated movie that gets into picture, so and thus taking away votes from Spider-Man. Boy and the Heron is giving Spider-Man a lot of trouble.
But moving on to outstanding original score for an independent movie, we've got John Batiste for American Symphony, Mika Levi for The Zone of Interest, Fabrizio Manicelli and Richard M. Sherman for a movie called Mushka, Daniel Pemberton for Ferrari, and then John Powell for Still a Michael J. Fox story. So I mean, it's for this category, it's not too surprising. I think either John Batiste or Mika Levi is probably going to be the one to maybe fill out that 5 in score come Oscar time. But yeah, Dan, what are your thoughts about the nominations for independent scores nominations?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everybody's loving John Batiste because of the American Symphony documentary. So now they're going with the score of the documentary, which is John Batiste, and they're like kind of correlating all this together with him. And this could actually be something that could translate for him. I mean, because if the documentary doesn't get in, maybe they could push him for score or something like that, or vice versa.
And also song, which we'll get to in here as well. But the song for American Symphony is also there as well. So
yeah, so this guy could be like the guy that came out of left field and started racking up awards wins and stuff like that. And he, we all know he's already won for Soul. He's already won, I believe, something for Soul, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like the guy hasn't done anything before, and if you watch the documentary, I'm telling you, this guy is this talented guy, and he's had some tough times regarding his significant other. If you watch the documentary, it's on Netflix. If anybody hasn't watched it, American Symphony, very, very good documentary. I watched it under the wire actually before I was supposed to vote by a day or 2 or 3. So. But
did it make your personal ballot, Dan?
For a documentary, I think I might have had it at 5.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I liked it myself. I didn't quite have it on my ballot, but it was very close.
Yeah, it was a lot of good docs this year. But I noticed Pigeon Tunnel was somewhere on something I saw the other day. Maybe that was your list. I'm like,
it might have been because I did have it on my personal ballot, but if you don't mind me jumping in real quick here, is that Americans? Yeah, we talked about this earlier. Is that if American Symphony gets love across different branches, not just the documentary branch, it could be My Octopus Teacher all over again, where that ended up surging late, and that was also a Netflix documentary. And so it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on this one, because I mean, imagine if it gets into documentary, song, and it
Yeah.
sneaks
Well,
into score. I
wow,
mean,
that'd be
at
crazy.
that point, you would think it's the front runner because it's not the documentary branch voting at that point; it's the entire academy.
Yeah.
So it's and like I talked about this last year. When we get to the entire academy voting for these docs, there's some really heavy stuff that gets nominated that can't quite win because there's just this crowd pleasing more happy or hopeful film or thrilling film that comes and wins. And maybe this year that's American Symphony. If it's not going to be Still, it could be end up being American Symphony.
That's what I've been hearing a lot of why still such a powerful such a big chance is because of the narrative behind the story behind Michael J. Fox and what he overcame and how he kept it a secret and all the things. I watched the doc months and months and months ago, but that's why it still keeps popping up with people because of the narrative of Michael J. Fox and the whole story of how he has overcome Parkinson's and all this stuff,
But
you know. So,
What American Symphony has over Still is that it's American Symphony has the potential to show up in multiple categories. That's
yeah,
big.
you're right.
That's a sign of love across the branches.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's but I've been here, that's the thing. You hear this, oh, it's either Still or American Symphony. Well, why not both of them getting in? You know what I mean? What's
Yeah.
what's the odds that both of them can get in? And they're all on the list, so they both still have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, like we said earlier, there's a chance for at least 3 of those documentaries to be about previous Oscar winners, because the Midnight Cowboy documentary got on that shortlist as
Yeah,
well.
and I saw that, Malcolm. I actually saw that document. I heard
I saw
people
it too. I saw
who
it too.
haven't seen that documentary. I'm like, well, I saw that 7 months ago. I don't know, why you wouldn't be able to have seen it, but I saw it. I'll tell you what a great, 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 great documentary that is. I mean, the archival footage and just, oh God,
I'm surprised it got in because it wasn't like one of the most buzzed about, and
no.
apparently a lot of people didn't even watch it. So
Yeah, that's surprising to me because I saw it so long ago. I was like, what do you mean you haven't seen this? I mean, it came out a while back.
But moving on to, I'm going to skip past the TV nominations that they have here. But outstanding original song for dramatic and or documentary visual media production. It Never Went Away from American Symphony. Slip Away from Carmen. Better Times from Jacob the Baker. Road to Freedom from Rustin. And Can't Catch Me Now from the Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So at least 3 of these are on the shortlist. 2 of them are just from movies I've never really heard of. Um, but um, but yeah, I think this bodes well for American Symphony, Rustin, and Hunger Games maybe getting into song. But Louis, what are your thoughts about outstanding original song?
yeah, again, American Symphony. I mean, it's not just on the short list, but here with the Society of Composers and Lyrics, it's like this is again a sign of how much strong this could be as a documentary. But it is interesting also to see the Rustin song in here because there is, can Rustin get into song here? Can it also be something that comes along with Coleman Domingo getting into actor? Because, it's not like Rustin is like a deep contender, but there's a lot of praise for Coleman Domingo's performance. He's been showing up in some places for actor, and if the song can get in, it might be a bode well for his chances to also get into actor. But yeah, again, the I can't. The big takeaway is again American Symphony and this love that it seems to have outside of just the documentary branch.
Yeah,
It's a good documentary. I'm sorry, Michael. It's a good documentary, right, Lewis? And it's got like a sad story within the documentary. But my thing is this: it's not all that. It's not all like the greatest documentary I've seen all year. I sometimes scratch my head and say, what is it about this specific documentary that's like resonating with me? Yeah, it has a sad story within it. It has the story of him trying to make this album and all this stuff and overcoming some like adversity, considering like the Emmys and stuff like that. Like they were giving him a lot of crap because he won a bunch of Emmys one year and Snoop Dogg didn't win and all this stuff. It's like, I don't understand where the creativity in the documentary is there, where compared to some other documentaries. You know what I mean?
But again,
something here.
well, I would argue it's just like how what's taking still so far is that it might just be love from within the industry from the guy,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and obviously the music branch loves him
Yeah,
because
well,
so that's gonna help. You know, the music branch is gonna be backing him.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh
But
yeah.
I think it's it's just we all know that the industry loves stories about themselves, so that I think that's what it's at play.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But it is actually looking more and more that out of the Netflix bunch of stuff they're campaigning for, it's looking like outside of the documentary thing, it's looking like Rustin is probably going to be that movie that's going to get a lot of love at the Oscars, because Nyad was kind of left out in the dust when it comes to the short lists.
Yeah, no visual effects, which is a big one. Everybody thought that it was going to sneak into visual effects because of some of the swimming scenes. You know what I mean? What she looks like when she's swimming and stuff, and what her body
Yeah.
goes through while she's swimming. And that didn't get into there. But with Rustin having best supporting actor and possibly a song thing for Lenny Kravitz, that is looking more and more like a thing, right, Malcolm?
Yeah, like as I said, like American Symphony, Rustin, and Can't Keep Now, they were all on the short list. So I think, and the fact that they tuned up here as well, I think it's going to be a good something they could get in. But going to move on to outstanding original song for a comedy or musical visual media production, which I think is just a really weird way to root it, but it is what it is. So we've got Peaches from the Super Mario Brothers movie, All About Me from the L Rude Generation Q, What Was I Made For from Barbie, I'm Just Ken from Barbie, and Die and Run for the Fire Inside. So it does look like that Fire Inside might sneak in there, because you got 3 in comedy musical that were on the shortlist, 3 in the thing. So there's at least 6 movies that are potentially on that vying for that slot where I see it now. But Dan, what are your thoughts about the nominations for original song for comedy musical?
Yeah, this is starting to shape up to what you're going to probably get for if you combined the different categories here with what the Oscars could be. You're starting to shape up to what those 15 could get narrowed down to the 5 or 6. Obviously you can't include Peaches because Peaches didn't make the list. I think it's a travesty. I mean, look, I know people, oh, it's a stupid song. Just that, yeah, but it would have been fun. You know, the thing about the Oscars is it's so hoity-toity in a lot of ways, and so many different aspects. It's so uppity and stuff. If you do the Ken song and the Peaches song, those have been fun moments. You know what I mean? And I think they really dropped the ball as far as the Peaches song. Can you imagine Jack Black getting up there doing the Peaches song to open up the show and they just do this whole number? You know, that would have been fun. You know what I mean, Malcolm?
I mean,
the ball on that. I mean, go ahead.
I mean, there's no reason why he can't still
I hope so. I mean, that would be nice. That would be nice if they could
but
do
I mean,
talk about Bruno's situation, you know?
Yeah, because I think I'm pretty sure we said it early in the year, because when we were talking about it was either Barbie or Super Mario Brothers, where we did say that we only really see that one of these 2 jokey songs maybe getting the nomination, and so it has come to pass that one of those 2 jokey songs did get that nomination. So
yeah. And what Mario didn't make the short list of animation, did it?
Well, there wasn't a shortlist for animated movie.
Michael, I talked to Michael K, and he said it came out like 3-4 weeks ago or whatever. They didn't do this like it did. You know, all these shortlists came out like this. It came out like weeks ago, separate from these lists, supposedly. That's what Michael K told me. But I mean, hey, I don't know. Is that right, Lewis? When there a short list of animated films, but it came out like weeks ago?
Well, I mean, I do remember there was a list about of all the eligible animated movies that came out. but I
Oh,
don't remember seeing a short list for it.
Yeah, I don't
oh,
remember a short list like
okay.
that.
All right, then Michael K might have been mistaken then.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those
Oh, you
like
know what? It just hit me. It was a list. It was a list of the eligible movies. That's what
yeah,
it was.
yeah,
Not that many eligible animated movies compared to normal movies.
Right.
yeah.
So it's a much shorter list. Way, way, way shorter list anyway. Oh, was it 18 or something like that? Maybe more. I don't know.
I will just quickly look. But Lewis, what are your thoughts about the best original song for comedy or musical visual media production?
Well, I'm looking over them right now. But interesting that Peaches got in again. Peaches got in everywhere, but except the Oscar short list. Not surprising to see. Not surprising to see the two Barbie songs in here. Again, Fire Inside, Diane Warren. I think she's getting in all over again with Flaming Hot. I think she's getting in all over again.
Yeah,
The fact that Peaches got in here but didn't make the short list makes me wonder how close it was into to making the short list, and the fact that it's also gotten in everywhere. Um, but I mean, to me, looking at this, all it tells me is that what we already know: the two Barbie songs are likely to get in, and that Diane Warren is looking like she's in for another nomination.
yeah. I mean, as I was just saying, Dan. So if we take the three that is on the shortlist from comedy musical, the three that's on the shortlist for dramatic and documentary, that gives about 6 songs. I think is the ones that you can potentially see. So either Don, and I think the ones that I think are probably going to get in. I think we're going to see the two Barbie songs. And maybe even Rustin and American Symphony, which leaves one spot for either Olivia Rodrigo for Can't Catch Him Now or the Diane Rollins song from Flaming Hot. So it's going to be interesting to see which of those ones make it in.
And remember last year we had a really outlier on song. Was it from Everything Everywhere All at Once? There was a wacky song from that last year. But
Yeah,
because
Yeah,
that was such a powerhouse contender, it kind of dragged that along with it, in a way that you didn't expect, So you don't know what could get in here. You were thinking about what we think could get in here, but you didn't ever know.
um, and Dan, I'll throw this to you just because you went to at the start. But do you have any thoughts about Joe Coy hosting the Golden Globes, or do you not know much about it?
Yeah, I did hear about Joe Coy. I saw that movie last year about Joe Coy, and I really liked Joe Coy. I didn't really know who Joe Coy was before that, and I reviewed that movie. I forget the name of the movie where it's about him and his family in San Francisco.
Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday, that's what it was, and I really enjoyed Easter Sunday. And I know he's done some stand up specials and stuff like that, so he's a popular guy. And I don't think he's like a negative guy. He's not like Ricky Gervais or one of these kind of negative type of comedian. So I think actually, and he checks off a diversity box. You know what I mean? So I think he's a really good choice for the Golden Globes, and he's a safe choice. I think
Yeah,
if you get a diverse host, you get someone who's really not that like edgy when it comes to their comedy. He's a funny guy, and I think he's a family kind of comedian. You know what I mean? And I think actually
yeah,
this is a good choice for CBS and the Golden Globes to go with Joe Coy. I think they made the right choice here. Actually,
Yeah, because I
yeah,
had mentioned when Malcolm asked me about this earlier. It's like last year, Jared Carmichael ended up being a bit of an awkward host with a lot. He took so many shots at the Globes instead of like joking about the movies, and his style of joking is very more. It's kind of like he's got his own particular style that's more deadpan, and I don't think it translated well to television.
no, I didn't like
yeah,
him that much compared to other. I think Seth MacFarlane might have hosted one year that was a good year. I like Seth MacFarlane, even though he did do. Was he the Oscars hope or was he the Gold Globe?
He was Oscars.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, never mind. I don't want to say that then.
Um, but yeah, going to move on and try and get some more of these critics groups sort of knocked out. Going to go to Phoenix. The Phoenix critics groups, they had their winners a while ago now. But the best horror movie went to Talk to Me. Lewis, any thoughts about Talk to Me getting their best horror movie?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Talk to Me was a big hit with critics. It's to me it sounds completely right to me for them to go for this. Um, it's I know. Um, I forgot. I think there was some other critics group I believe that I want to say, but gave Godzilla for best horror movie. But of course, whenever you're talking about those creature features, there is sort of like a fine line of what's horror and what's just a straight up creature film. But this has surprised me at all because Talk to Me was so well regarded among critics. I mean, I remember like super early, Dan, even you were like maybe musing if it might have an outside shot at an Oscar run. But I think it's definitely a popular pick for people among their favorite horror movie of the year.
It was
Dan, what
mine.
are your thoughts about Talk to Me
Yeah.
getting best horror?
Yeah. I mean, it's my number one horror movie. I don't, and I talked to we got some people in our guild that's kind of are horror centric, Malcolm, and they talk about horror movies. They put their top 10 out and all this kind of stuff. And I don't think this was a good year for horror. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it was a good year for horror. There was some wacky off the wall type of horror movies, but I think there's the straightforward, real, like cringeworthy, scary, like you're like putting your hands in front of your face kind of horror movie was Talk to Me, and that's to me what horror really is. And that's why I'm seeing Talk to Me get some. Plus, these guys are YouTubers. These are YouTubers turned filmmakers, and they made a freaking amazing film. So I give credit, And I love Talk to Me. I mean, it's scary, 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 scary. Oh God, oh my God, I just can't even think about it right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I also really loved Talk to Me. I thought it was great. And yeah, it's one of those ones that I would have loved to see get some Oscar nominations, but it's starting to look like if you really, I think it would have gotten. I think it's got no chance.
Makeup, makeup. I think makeup would have been a great off the wall pick for Talk to Me, if you ask me, because
Yeah,
there's some really amazing makeup effects in Talk to Me, right?
yeah. But
Well,
anyway, moving.
they did shortlist Last Voyage to the Meter, so and they said
Yeah,
they
because
shortlisted
of
it. So
the Beast
yeah,
did Last Voyage of the Demeter. That's why. That's the main thing why they did that. Is the Beast is pretty creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if anything, I think a lot of the vampire Dracula type movies, I think some get into makeup a lot anyway. But moving on to best science fiction film, and that considering I was nominated, I'm kind of surprised what won. But it went to They Cloned Tyrone, which took out which runs best science fiction movie over things like Asteroid City, The Creator, Guardians Volume 3, of all in Dog Destiny. But Dan, what if it was about they cloned Tyrone getting best science fiction movie?
Yeah, I am. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of. I saw they cloned Tyrone and I liked it. Don't get me wrong, I liked it. I requested a screener of it and I watched it early on and I watched it and I just something about it just was a little bit odd to me, And I'm right there with you. You're telling me Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 isn't the best sci-fi movie of the year? I don't understand. I just don't understand. But whatever. I digress. If each of these guilds are going to have these weird outlier picks like this, like I'm sure we're going to have some weird picks in our guild, which, well, it seems like we're pretty straightforward, actually. I'm surprised.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, it's one of those ones. Maybe they're just want to spread the love a little bit. I don't know. But Lewis, what are your thoughts about they cloned Tyrone getting best science fiction?
Well, I did really like the Clone Tyrone, but that being said, my vote would have gone to Guardians. To me, that's like the obvious best sci-fi film, like out of the ones that they nominated here. So it could also just be a lot of split voting, which allowed some of the passion for some of the members of the group to help with to get the
Yeah,
Clone Tyrone across the finish line.
yeah. Best comedy movie went to The Holdovers. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. It doesn't come out till January for me. But based on what I've heard, I'm not overly surprised. Lewis, what are your thoughts about The Holdovers getting best comedy?
Yeah, I mean, again, that doesn't surprise me, but it did go up against some pretty tough competition. Barbie, American Fiction, those are potential Best Picture contenders. Um, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me, especially given the taste of the group. Looking at their other movies that won and such, it sounds right to me that Holdovers won here. Because the thing about Holdovers is that we've seen these sort of crowd pleasing movies, but they tend to be like movies that critics like. Maybe they even want to recognize come awards time, but they don't necessarily want to like award. With holdovers, there are people who like generally crowd pleasers aren't their cup of tea, but they're reacting really well to this movie, and I actually think it's that some people are downplaying the chance that it could be our best picture winner. I'm not predicting that at the moment, but there is a path there if it can win screenplay and supporting actress. Um, but yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all. Holdovers is easily a top five contender at the moment for pictures, so it makes sense to me of one here.
Um, but Dan, what are your thoughts about Holdovers getting best comedy?
Yeah, I mean, I laughed some in the holdovers, and I love this movie. Don't get me wrong. I don't want people to think I love this movie overall, but to me, it's more of a dramatic movie. Yeah, there are a few laugh out loud moments, but to me the funniest movie I've seen all year was American Fiction. Maybe American Fiction didn't translate to these people that voted in Arizona. I don't know, but I still love the movie, and any awards it gets, I'm champion anything the holdovers get. So if this is what it got, this is what I got, and good for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about that a bit last week when we did the Golden Globes, and that, and like if you go onto IMDb, I'm pretty sure it's got it classified as comedy slash drama, so
Comedy.
as a so, and it's one of those ones like definitely those borderline things, because I know there's some people sort of complaining about the fact that the musical movies are lumped in with comedy, and that they think the Golden Globes should change that because things like The Color Purple is not really a comedy musical. It's because
Straightforward.
that subject matter is more dramatic than anything. So,
Yeah.
which I do kind of get that point. It's like not all musicals are comedies, but not all comedies are musicals. Sort of thing. So I mean,
Yeah.
um, but but I digress. Moving on to best score, we've talked a bit about this already. But it went to Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer, which kind of said is the front runner here. Any other thoughts on that?
No, we all know he's the front runner.
Moving on to cinematography, we went to Hoyt van Hoytema for Oppenheimer. We've talked a bit about that as well. Any thoughts? Any other thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's
Um,
just I mean, Lewis, and I don't want to cut you off, Lewis, but I'm just really discouraged by what's going on with this. And you guys know how I feel about this. Where's John Wick in these? Where's John Wick 4 in this cinematography stuff that's being bandied about in all these regional guilds? Why isn't John Wick 4 winning more? Am I discouraged about Hoyt van Hoytema? No, I'm not. I think he did a phenomenal job with Oppenheimer, but I'm just so discouraged with John Wick 4 and Dan Lautzen not getting in. And it's like no one's watching that movie and thinking, "Oh my God, the cinematography is phenomenal." This is incredible. He did the cinematography on both the last two John Wick movies, and I'm like, I watched all the John Wick movies in the last 2 days, all over again. And I'm just blown away by the cinematography. And I just don't understand why he can't get any love for these movies. It just baffles me. I'm not knocking Ben Hoyt. The guy is incredible. He's been doing great work for a long time, been working with Nolan for quite a while. I'm not knocking people giving him awards, but we're, without giving away our hand, we're doing the same thing in our guild. It's like, come on, man. Can't we have somebody else? Can we talk about somebody else with great cinematography besides Hoyt Van Hoytema all the time? Whatever.
Well, to me, it just seems it does seem like there's this whole his moment thing kind of going on here, because I do think he's the front runner, and he does seem to be getting most of the cinematography awards. I mean, I agree with you about John Wick. John Wick's in my personal ballot for cinematography, and it's a shame that it's not getting more love there. I can understand it with the industry, because I just feel like a lot of industry voters aren't even. It's not that they don't like John Wick. I don't think they've even gotten around to watching John Wick. But a part of why they haven't gotten around to watching John Wick is because the critics haven't been pushing it, and I think that's unfortunate that the critics are kind of treated this as just another commercial film that came and went, because this movie had a lot of good reviews and everybody was talking about how great the cinematography in it is, but unfortunately, genre bias and the critics not pushing it like they should, because John Wick, if I remember right, didn't even show up anywhere in Critics' Choice. Um, like the only thing that I've seen critics push it for is stunts. And yeah, it had great stunts, but the cinematography in the movie was like easily one of the best of the year.
Yeah, it is. And I remember early on when we were doing some of our earlier shows, I was talking to Malcolm, and I'm like, I think John Wick could have been in about 5 categories, 5 Oscar, legitimately in 5 Oscar categories, in my opinion. And it's just like, it's just been going the way of the dodo bird for some reason. I'm just, it's a head scratcher.
It's
Why?
just it's one of those cases we see this happen every year with a few movies where critics love it, but for whatever reason they're not putting it on their ballots. The industry doesn't see those movies on their ballots, so it's not a priority screening for them.
And I just saw
Yeah.
Jeremy John top 10 of the year, and what was his number 1 movie of the year?
John Wick
4.
John Wick. I saw the same video. John Wick 4. Yep.
I mean, it's one of those ones. Like, I think with this, I think it's for a lot of people. I would want to imagine John Wick was either outside their personal 5, or that they just really like the ones they've been pushing personally. And I think it's just one of those ones, like, because we don't know how each individual critic is going with these ballots. So it's like, it could just be that a handful of people are only putting John Wick 4 on here, but other people are not. So it's is what it is. I think um in a couple of weeks we'll probably find out where the industry aligning with this, because that's when the Cinematographers Guild releases their nominations and all that.
I'm just worried for it, Malcolm, because it didn't show up anywhere. It didn't show up in sound. It didn't, which that to me has some of the best sound of the year.
Oh
It's
my God.
I just feel like a lot of not enough industry members are watching it. So it is going to be interesting to see if the Cinematography Guild can save it.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I get why you're right, and I mean, it's one of those ones, like, I'm not as big as on John Wick. Like, it's a good. I'm probably going to give it a rewatch. See if it goes up for me. In that, but at this stage, it's probably not going to be in my top 10. But yeah. But moving on to documentary, which we talked about when we talked about Shortlist, still a Michael J. Fox movie run documentary. Don't think there's anything more to add to that. Zone of Interest got foreign language film. That's the front runner. It's not going to be that much of. Animated movie went to Spider-Verse. Once again, is pretty self-explanatory. Best screenplay went to The Holdovers. Anything more to say about that?
I just
Well,
want to say that I think people are really underrating this its screenplay, because a lot of people are currently predicting Barbie wins original screenplay, and I'm not saying that that's not possible, but I have noticed that Holdovers is seemingly sort of starting to pull away as the popular critics pick for screenplay. And if Critics' Choice goes with it in screenplay, Critics' Choice does have a really good record predicting original screenplay at the Oscars, even though there's like literally only one person out of 600 that crosses over with the Academy. So I think a lot of people need to be paying attention that Holdovers could be our original screenplay winner because it's winning a lot of prizes.
Yeah. But moving on to supporting actress, Divine Joel Randolph's been on a roll at this point.
I want to ask you guys, since we're on to this, not to go off on a tangent here, what? Obviously, Malcolm, you haven't seen these movies yet, so I'm basically talking to Lewis here. Why do you think it's Divine Joy Randolph and not Daniel Brooks? And I love Divine Joy. Don't get me wrong. She was my pick as well. What do you think? What do you think the narrative here is? Why they're going with her and not the other one? In your opinion, Lewis? Because I'm just curious.
I think they like
the same thing. They're basically doing the same thing, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
here?
no, I agree. I mean, personally, Daniel Brooks is my personal winner, but at a very close second is Divine Joy Randolph. I just think a lot of critics liked Holdovers more.
Yeah,
Color Purple. The critics liked Color Purple, but people like me that it's like a top 3 of the year for me. Like we're not most critics are doing that. There's a reason, Color Purple isn't showing up in a lot of Best Picture nominations, and I think that's kind of costing Daniel Brooks. Now we'll see what happens with the industry. We'll see what happens. News came out today. Color Purple's doing great at the box office, which is what it needs to do. And then it's about whether it could get into PGA and SAG. I just think that critics also tend to like what Divine Joy Randolph is doing is a little bit more subdued than Daniel Brooks because it's not like Divine Joy is singing, in Holdovers, and she does have like that big moment where she breaks down at the party. But I just think Daniel Brooks is. It's not that I've been seeing her show up as a runner-up in a lot of critic awards. Daniel Brooks, which is pretty impressive given that they're not nominating Color Purple for picture necessarily. But I just think it's a thing where critics are getting behind her. The question is, can Divine Joy Randolph keep this up when we get to the televised awards? Because when we get to the televised awards, that might be where all of a sudden you start seeing a shift towards Daniel Brooks. But yeah. I just think that's what it is. Critics just like Holdovers as a movie a little bit more.
All right. Well, that's exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for,
and this is coming from someone who adores Color Purple. It's a top 3 movie for me. No, this is the Holdovers. I loved Holdovers too, but I just think it just comes down to stronger strength for Holdovers.
Yeah, okay. I mean, like I haven't seen either of these, but I think it also didn't help that Color Purple kind of dragged a little bit on sending out screeners to so these critics groups may not have had a chance to see Color Purple before the deadline as well. So
good point. Because, we barely got it in time for our guild as well. So
yeah. Because for this one specifically, Daniel Brooks wasn't even in the 5 nominations for supporting actress.
Okay.
Right. But moving on to supporting actor, and that went to Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, which he's definitely up there.
He's taking the lead and wins. He's starting to take the lead. He slipped up a bit when critics trying to push Melton and Gosling has pulled off some wins, but it feels like he's starting to get a lead now.
The artsy fartsy guilds like Gotham's and some of them were going with Melton and stuff, but the straightforward, a lot of these regional guilds are starting to go for Downey Jr. So
I'm happy about it because he's my personal winner in this category.
Mine too.
I will say it will probably please Dan to know that Melton wasn't even nominated for this guild.
I rewatched May December recently though, Malcolm, and I specifically wanted to watch what he was doing in May December, and he is doing a really good job. There's no doubt
Yeah.
he's doing a really good job. I don't knock what the guy is doing in the movie. You know what
I mean, I don't think he should win, but he is on my personal ballot.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to Best Actress went to Emma Stone for Poor Things. Managed to upset Lily Gladstone here. Anyone got any further thoughts to say about that?
It's Lily versus Emma. It's Lily versus Emma. That's basically what it looks like it's coming down to.
Yeah, at this point, it's probably that's what it's coming down to, and I'm just kind of in the camp of I don't want Emma to get a second one, and I don't want Lily to get Best Actress because I don't think she's Best Actress. You know, I don't think she's Best. I think she's supporting, in my opinion. I would rather see Carey Mulligan get it, but I'd rather see Emma Stone than Lily at this point.
I mean, Emma is my personal winner, and Lily's in my Lily's in my personal ballot. But as good as she is, I do agree with you. I think that's a supporting performance.
I really hope Carey Mulligan is nominated. I didn't like her performance in Maestro at all.
Whoa!
And and we're going to move on to Best Actor anyway, which went to Cillian Murphy from Oppenheimer. But I think Evan Bradley Cooper's performance was fine at best. I wasn't. I was didn't.
Yeah, Dan wasn't here for a conversation that Malcolm was a little bit lukewarm on Maestro.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But I will say, like, the cinematography and stuff of Maestro was great. I just thought the movie as a whole didn't work.
Well, on the actor front, since we're talking about Best Actor in the actor front, I think it's becoming pretty clear that Cillian Murphy is the critics' pick. Now, Cooper has had, I think, 2 critics groups he's won. But yeah, it does look like Cillian is the critics' pick. And again, like Divine Joy Randolph, like Lily Gladstone, the question is, will that stay the same when we get to the televised awards?
Yeah.
My thing too is this: what does Bradley Cooper and I freaking love Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. I cannot say enough about what he's doing in that movie. My question is what, and maybe since you just recently saw my show, Malcolm, you can answer this. What does Bradley Cooper have to do in his career to win an Academy Award? If this is going by the wayside, I'm like, what more does this guy have to do? He's done everything. He's been nominated 9 times. Unless this will be his 9th time or 10th time. If he gets multiple nominees, it'll be 9th, 10th, 11th, whatever. And it's like, what does this guy got to do, Malcolm, to win an Oscar?
Well, I mean, it's one of those ones like, I think as I said earlier, like he's still young enough that like he can still get in there more. I think it's just an issue of like every time he's been nominated, he's been up against people who deserve to be nominated a lot more.
Well, I would say it's not time to push the panic button either, Dan, because again, we haven't gotten to the televised awards, and in at least one acting category, the industry's going to do their own thing. In at least one of them. Sometimes they do it in multiple categories. There was the one year they did it in 2004. Like, so it's not time to push the panic button on Cooper. I still think he's probably going to win because he does have a showier performance. But the fact that Cillian is the face of our Best Picture frontrunner arguably does help him a lot.
Yeah, I did hear that. I did hear that some other award shows and pundits are saying, wait till the live awards and see who starts popping up as the winner of the live awards, and then maybe that'll translate to where he becomes the front runner. Then
Rami Malek, Will Smith, those are examples of when the televised awards changed what was happening.
Yeah.
Well, Matt Neglia was pushing Will Smith back at tell you, Ryan, when he saw it,
It should be noted he is bullish on Bradley Cooper. He's still bullish on him.
yeah.
But I will say this will like if he gets nominated, this is actually his 4th acting nomination. Well, his 5th acting nomination in general, but it would be his 4th Best Actor nomination. His 9 nominations are all comprised of either producing movies and as well. So,
Did he get supporting for Licorice Pizza or no?
No, he got a SAG nom for that, but not the Oscar.
He in that same year he was nominated for producing Nightmare Alley.
That's
He was
right.
one of the producers on Nightmare Alley, and as I just learned out recently, he was actually a producer on Joker as well.
Yeah, he was.
Which I had no idea.
He
So I
could get
mean,
3 nominations this year. He could get 3 nominations if he gets director, screenplay, and actor. And
Well,
More,
I mean,
because he's also a producer in the movie.
yeah, he can get 4 nominations this year if he gets in all 4 of them categories.
I mean, it's one of those, but it's just one of those. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
And there is a conversation, real quick, Malcolm. There is a conversation on YouTube where him and Steven Spielberg are having a nice long conversation about Maestro. And I recommend people, if you want to kind of get behind the scenes on the production of Maestro and what went into making the movie, and from Bradley's perspective and point of view, go look for that interview with Steven Spielberg and him. Very good interview, I might add.
And there is a good interview with Spike Lee, which I think was Variety directors on directors on directors, and it's something to keep an eye on. Like, I talked to Malcolm about this. I think off air, but Maestro's audience scores have been taking a bit of a hit since it showed up on Netflix. But I think it's going to be like Mank, where the industry just likes the movie so much that it's going to be doing fine nomination wise.
Well, yeah, no, and I get that because like it is about Liam Neeson, who has been nominated before at the Oscars, like just like what we said with American Symphony and still like it's not like Maestro is about this random composer that they've made up like
West Side Story music, right?
yeah. But moving on to Best Director, and Yorgos Lanthimos actually won at the Phoenix one, which I think maybe will cement him to maybe at least get nominated at the Oscars. It's hard to say.
Oh,
but,
he's in. I think he's in.
He's in.
Yeah. But it should be mentioned that this is definitely an outlier because easily the guy pulling away in director wins is Nolan.
Nolan, yeah.
Yeah. And Best Picture went to Past Lives, which also surprised me a little bit, but it could maybe help give it that push to maybe get into that, at least nominated. So
that'd make my day if Past Lives gets in the Best Picture. Oh,
the thing about Picture this year with the critics is that there's been a lot of love spread around. It kind of almost reminds me of what happened during the 2017 season. At the moment, by my count, Oppenheimer and Killers are tied for the most wins for Picture. But what's happening is what we also saw in 2017 when Guillermo del Toro was winning most of the director awards. Nolan is winning most of the director awards, regardless who wins Best Picture. Now, granted, we just talked about a group that didn't go with Nolan, didn't go with Oppenheimer for Picture, but it's a trend to keep an eye on that shows you that Nolan is very much the face of Oppenheimer.
Yeah. But moving on to, I believe this is the St. Louis Film Critics, and they've actually got a category for Best Scene, and the runner-up was the staircase fight from John Wick Chapter 4, with the winner being Gloria's monologue for Impossible Standard for Women from Barbie, which I'm gonna say I did like that scene, but I'm a little bit surprised it sped out Staircase fight from John Wick Chapter 4, or even the Trinity Test from Oppenheimer, which was also nominated. But Lewis, what are your thoughts about the Barbie monologue getting best scene at the
Yeah,
Cinderella?
I mean, a lot of people say that if America Ferrera can get into supporting actress, this is probably going to be her Oscar clip. So I think that helps a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's great in that movie, and I've been trying to tell people all year that the outsider looking in for best supporting actress is America Ferrera. First of all, not only for Barbie but for Dumb Money, she gave two fantastic performances this year in two very good movies. Not two like one crappy movie and one good movie. Two very good movies, in my opinion, my 2 cents there. And I think she deserves some love for some of that. And I think part of that is that monologue which she gives, and it's a great scene in the movie. You know, it's one of arguably it might be one of the best, if not the best scene in the movie. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I'm not doubting you that America Ferrera could get in. Like, I think if she gets in it all, it is going to be for Barbie at least, and maybe with Lily Gladstone moving into lead actress, it helps America Ferrera get slide in there. Even although it's still going to be a bit of a hard road, a little bit. But the best horror for St. Louis Film Critics went to Talk to Me. The runner-up was Skinnamarink. Um, but
Yeah.
we talked about that before. Best documentary was actually a tie between American Symphony and still a Michael J. Fox story. So at least two of the documentaries that everything is probably going to get in got in. Best comedy, the runner up was Barbie. The winner was The Holdovers. Um, Pretty much similar to the last one. Best animated feature, The Boy and the Heron was the runner up. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse won. And I think that that's probably going to be the top two when it comes to the Oscars. Like, if anything, best action movie was actually a tie between John Wick Chapter 4 and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Best international feature, The Zone of Interest was the runner up. Anatomy of a Fall won, which can't win the Oscars, but best stunts was a winner. The winner, but John Wick Chapter 4 was the runner up. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 won. Best visual effects, Oppenheimer was the runner up. The creator won. The creator's getting a lot of love in visual effects. We talked about that.
Yeah, it was my top. It was my top film of the year for visual effects. The creator was so. There you
go. This is a different category that they don't have in other critics groups. Best music soundtrack. The Killer was the runner up, and Barbie won, which I'm not surprised that was a really great soundtrack.
Yeah, it was. Overall, it really was a good soundtrack. I have to say, I did listen to a lot of the Barbie songs. Over and over, unfortunately.
Yeah. Moving on to best score. There was a tie for the runner-ups. Killers of the Flower Moon and May December both tied for score, but Oppenheimer ultimately won score.
That's a question. That leads me to think about something. I rewatching the May December again, and I always thought that score was really interesting. It was so different than a lot of scores I heard this year. I say, wow, and it stood out to me. Did the beginning, like you're watching the beginning of the movie, and it's got this interesting score to it, and then it kind of goes throughout the movie, and you're like, wow, what an interesting score. But it hasn't translated anywhere, which is weird. I always was wondering why that didn't translate, the score of May December, but obviously it did here with St. Louis, so that's good.
I would say keep an eye on BAFTA long list because I have a feeling that if anyone in the industry is going to push May December, it's going to be the international crowd.
Yeah, I mean, May December not getting into score may not help it too much at the Oscars, maybe like that may not have it as much of a bigger showing at the Oscars that we think it may have, and then we
I
don't
just
know what's
think
going to happen.
I just think May December could be this year's Triangle of Sadness, where it just comes down to that movie really got pushed by international voters, and May December to me feels like the kind of movie international voters would go for.
But also, I've noticed like some critics love the movie. They like they had this weird obsession with May December, and it's like this, like it has like this thing going for it where people they like it, but they kind of laughing at it why they like it, like they're laughing with it. Instead, you know, it's supposed to be like this dramatic movie, but these actors are kind of given these like underlying comedic performances in a way, and like a certain demographic of America is like kind of going along with May December in a way. It's like this subtext. It has like this subtext with it, and I say to myself, this is fascinating that this kind of like below the not below the line as far as awards contention, but like below the line like type of personality, like type of people are like pushing this movie. If you know what I mean, like this kind of oddball, grouping, like personalities and weird. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Am I wrong here?
I'm telling you, it's Triangle of Sadness, where there's a particular passionate fan base for it, but I don't think it's going to be like your mainstream industry voters. I think it's going to be coming from the international voters, and it's going to be up to them as to whether it could get into picture.
Yeah, I mean, once again, there's a lot of it was what we kind of said last week about May December. Like once again, that's another one of those movies that if you go onto IMDb, it does have comedy and drama on its main top two genres. So,
did you see it yet?
Got into, was that?
Have you seen it yet, Malcolm?
It doesn't come out till February for us.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot. That's right, February.
But moving on to costume design, the runner-up was Poor Things. Barbie was the winner. It's kind of probably what we're going to get.
Bit of an upset there. I think that's a bit of an upset there because I think Barbie's costumes are good, but they're not as good as Poor Things costumes. I mean, Poor Things costumes are next level in my opinion.
I mean, they're both probably going to be nominated at the Oscars. That's kind of what's getting mad.
I want to know who's doing the costumes for Poor Thing because whoever that is, what an amazing job they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so I just looked it up real quick to see how much of an upset that is. I don't think this really upset them because apparently Barbie has slightly more wins than Poor Things with critics when it comes to costume design.
Oh, well, there you go then.
Yeah, I mean, but moving on to production design, Poor Things was the runner. Barbie was the winner again.
Not surprising. Barbie's dominating production design with critics,
and they're both pulling away from Asteroid City. It looks like.
Oh yeah. I think Asteroid City's not showing up. To tell you the truth, well, I feel like that's again one of those movies where it's not so much that the industry doesn't like it. I'm just not sure enough of them are even watching it.
I mean, it's one of those ones. It's one of those ones. I think for the production lines category, I think Asteroid City at least is getting nominated. I just don't think it's. I'm at the point where I'm okay with it not winning. I just wanted to be nominated. But moving on to best editing, the runner-up was The Killer. The winner was Oppenheimer.
Love The Killer I love The Killer popping up in some of these places because I think The Kill, like it popped up in Jeremy John's top 10 of the year. I think it's such an underrated movie that I just wish more people would have liked it, or it would pop up more in some of these tech categories, you know. But yeah, editing is a great one, though. It really has got some great editing.
But moving on to cinematography, there's a three-way runner-up tie between Asteroid City, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Maestro, but Oppenheimer was ultimately the winner. But I'm glad to see some critics are liking Asteroid City at least anyway. But moving on to original screenplay, runner up was The Holdovers. The winner was Barbie. Anyone have any thoughts about that?
Well, it's just coming down to these two. It looks like like what Lewis said. It looks like Barbie was going to be the front runner, but now it seems like The Holdovers is coming in there. Is Alexander Payne involved in the screenplay? For The Holdovers?
No, he's not.
Oh, that's where I thought, oh, maybe this is their way of giving Alexander Payne some love. But if he's not involved in the screenplay, then he's on the outs looking in himself. It's just, just a great screenplay.
Well, like I said, we need to see what happens with Critics' Choice because for whatever reason, even though there's not really any real like crossover, for whatever reason, Critics' Choice just has a pretty decent track record of predicting the screenplay winners.
Yeah. But moving on to adapted screenplay, American Fiction was the runner-up, with Oppenheimer being the ultimate winner. I kind of half expected it to be Killers and Oppenheimer being these sort of two, but this could.
Go ahead, Malcolm. Go ahead.
This could be a sign that maybe Killers is kind of falling apart off the base when it comes to adapted screenplay.
I've been saying that all along, and nobody would listen to me. But I've been saying that all along, that I don't think the strength of Killers of the Flower Moon is its screenplay. I think they don't adapt that book properly. That's just, and I think people are starting to realize that they're not adapting the subject matter very good. They didn't do a good job of adapting the subject matter, in my opinion. And I think that's starting to get, word of mouth is starting to get around that, oh no, this isn't what the book is.
And I think people are really underrating the possibility that Oppenheimer does actually pull off adapted screenplay. Now, Poor Things can pull it off, American Fiction can pull it off, but I think people are not realizing that, because I've noticed in the critics groups where they really go big for Oppenheimer, it's winning screenplay awards, and that was something that I was noticing with Everything Everywhere last year.
I think we're here with St. Louis is, I do believe that one of the strengths of American Fiction is its screenplay. I think that screenplay is whip snapping, freaking amazing, really cracking. It's a cracker of a screenplay, and that's always a good sign when you have a really good cracker of a screenplay.
Well, I mean, on that note, it's one thing that I'm wondering if the people that are voting on adapted screenplay are actually reading the original books that they're based on, or they're just basing it based on the movie itself on the screenplay, because that's going to be that will be an interesting thing to sort of look at and see sort of why people are voting for what they're voting for in this category, because if they haven't actually read the source material, can they really truly judge adapted screenplay effectively?
And the thing too is, Malcolm, and that's a good point that you're making. Are people reading American Prometheus? Are they reading the book that Poor Things is based on? Are they? I feel, and I could be completely wrong, a lot more people read Killers of the Flower Moon because we heard about this being made into a movie years ago. And there's plenty of time for people to read this book. And I know a lot of people that went and got the book and read the book, including myself. So I'm just putting that out there. I think a lot of people read this book, Killers of the Flower Moon. And that's the difference between Killers and Oppenheimer, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think it's on the flip side of that, though, is for me, like, if I find out a book's being adapted that I haven't read before, I'm not going to go out and read the book before I go see the movie. I'm just going to watch the movie, so I don't have any preconceived opinions of what to expect.
Good point.
So,
you make a valid point. I'm discouraged. I was discouraged. Part of why I was discouraged about the movie was the fact that I read the book, and when I saw the movie, it was different than the book, and I was kind of discouraged. So you make a valid point, Malcolm. I'm not going to sit here and say that's a good thing. It turns out to be a bad thing for me because now I'm not as high on the movie as I would have been if I hadn't read the book.
Yeah. But anyway, we kind of digress. Moving on to best ensemble. Barbie and Oppenheimer were tied for the runner-up. The Holdovers ultimately won best
Wow.
ensemble here.
Wow.
Um,
That's a
Interesting
four-
because Oppenheimer's been dominating ensemble wins with critics. So
yeah.
yeah,
And it's
I mean,
kind of
I still think ultimately Oppenheimer gets ensemble at SAG.
oh yeah.
I just think I think some of these critics would just want to give some love to some other movies. But
And
yeah,
when does the SAG nominees come out? Do we know?
I
um,
want to say sometime mid-January.
Because I would say, look at the amount of people that are on that ensemble who are eligible to win a SAG for that ensemble. That is going to be a key with Oppenheimer. You know,
um,
holdovers is what, 4 people? That's crazy.
SAG
But I was
nominations.
always thinking that holdovers had a chance in ensemble in places because even though it's not a massive ensemble, them 3 main actors are incredible together.
SAG nominations come out January the 10th, so we're
Ah,
just over a week away.
ah.
It,
Because that's
obviously,
going to be a key. That's going to be a key. The size of that cast is going to be a major key on
Well,
Oppenheimer winning
SAG
SAG.
SAG ensemble is massive. Like that's a big one. That
Well,
sometimes
Did Coda or something win, and it had like 4 or 5 people or something like that?
Coda had 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they have 5 or
Yeah, so
6.
it happens
The
with
last person to win with just 4 was Sideways.
yeah.
Sideways. Interesting. That Alexander Payne.
Yeah.
But moving on to supporting actor, there was a runner-up tie between Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer and Charles Melton for May December, but the ultimate winner was Ryan Gosling for Barbie. Any thoughts on that?
I would say the 3 guys I think are absolutely locked at the moment
Yeah.
to get in there.
Yeah, I would say so. I absolutely agree with Lewis's episode.
Uh,
Seems like the one that seems like the one that's on the outside looking in maybe a little bit now is Robert De Niro maybe.
Yeah.
Which I thought
He's been missing more than I thought he would.
I thought
Because
he
4
was
is probably Mark Ruffalo.
yeah, Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo's starting to gain momentum, I noticed. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, De Niro could maybe still sneak in though. At that 5, I think it's going to come down to either De Niro or maybe Poor Things get a double supporting nomination. So,
Or Sterling K. Brown if they
well,
really like American
well, that
Fiction.
too.
Mm.
But moving on to supporting actress, Rachel McAdams was the runner-up for A There God It's Me Margaret, with Divine Joy Randolph winning for the holdovers. We've talked a lot about Divine Joy Randolph, but Rachel McAdams has been having this late surge at the moment. Wasn't
Yeah.
it? I think Lewis said in the chat. I think there was a critics group where she actually won supporting
Yes.
actress.
She I believe has, hold on, I can tell you right now. Supporting actress. She has won 3. She's won Los Angeles, San Diego, and Florida Film Critics Circle. She is the only woman on a competitive. Well, she and Julianne Moore, because Julianne Moore did win 1 critics group, but she is basically the only one who has shown that she can beat Divine Joy Randolph. The problem to me would be is that I don't know how much of a screening priority Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is for industry voters at the moment versus the holdovers, which is arguably a top 5 contender right now. But it is interesting that she has ended up pulling off a couple wins here, and
Yeah.
if she gets into SAG, that could be potentially a potential sign that she might be able to sneak in at Oscar.
Wasn't she a surprise nominee somewhere a year or 2 ago for something that people are like, oh my God, Rachel McAdams got in here. or something recently, and people like there's love for Rachel McAdams that I didn't realize there was as a whole, like on a whole. Uh, they just like her as an actress, and she sometimes slips in various places, and you think, wow, Rachel McAdams got in there,
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those ones like I think that the fact that she has sort of gotten a couple of winning things, I think that might give some of the industry like an excuse to check out the movie and that.
And
But
well, good point. You make a good point, actually, Malcolm, and I'm glad you brought that up. Like our guild has a special award that I created this year called Under 18 Best Performance by Actor Under 18, and so we were forced to watch. I had already seen Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, like 10 months ago, but it gave us more reason to watch that movie again because of Abby Ryder Fortson. But then when you watch the movie, the takeaway is, oh wait, Rachel McAdams is really good in it. So there you go.
yeah, and Rachel McAdams was nominated in 2016 for supporting actress for Spotlight. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that we probably can't count out Rachel McAdams at this point because I think she could be a surprise in this category. Because it's one of those ones with supporting actress. I would argue that the only one that is close to being a lock at this point is Divine Joanne. I think the other four spots are kind of up for grabs. I don't think there's anyone that's kind of really locked out in the outside of that.
Well, Daniel Brooks, I would say. I think it's a two-horse
Oh,
race for nominees as far as nominees go. But winning, I know what you're saying.
yeah. No, I was about to say, I think Daniel Brooks is one that it's going to depend on how much they love the color purple. Is
That'd be
but
sad. I mean, that'd be pretty sad if she got cut out of Best Supporting Actress.
well, I mean, I think it's just a case of I think supporting actress is one of those categories this year that like we've got one sort of obvious one that's getting in, and then a whole bunch of other people vying for four spots. So so I think it's
I think we lost Malcolm.
Yeah, we got a little bit of frozen on Malcolm's in here. Oh God, Malcolm, come on, buddy, come back.
I will say I think I'm feeling
no.
pretty good that Brooks is going to get in. I'm just the win is the big question to me at
Yeah.
the moment.
Yeah, I got you. I got you on that. Come on, Malcolm, come back, buddy.
Am I back yet?
We can hear you.
We hear you.
I think that's the main thing. Moving on to Best Actor, Paul Giamatti was the runner-up for The Holdovers. Cillian Murphy was the winner for Oppenheimer. That's kind of the obvious who's probably going to get nominated.
Yeah.
Moving on to Best Actress, Margot Robbie for Barbie was the runner-up, and Lily Gladstone won for Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's interesting. Margot Robbie's runner up there. I just don't understand what people are saying about Barbie as far as an acting performance. But
yeah. Moving on to director, and it seems like maybe St. Louis just really liked Barbie because Greta Gerwig was the runner-up for Best Director, but Christopher Nolan won for Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
and then
obvious.
And then in Best Film, runner-up was Barbie, winner was Oppenheimer. So once again, that's another obvious.
Seems like Barbenheimer is going to be a thing all year long. I didn't realize it was going to turn out to be this major thing all year long, including awards. But it looks like it's going to be. And
well, I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's. I think it's early to say that if that's going to be the case in the industry side of things.
Yeah.
But it's definitely looking like that at least for the critics side, Barbenheimer is going to be a thing. But not that I'm overly surprised because both movies are really good, and
I think it's gonna have a presence. I personally don't buy people who think that our final two in picture is gonna be a Barbenheimer showdown. I think because I to me that just sounds too easy, too lazy. Like I think like I could see Barbie versus something or Oppenheimer versus something, but if it for it to come down to those two movies, I it's just hard for me to buy that. But I think they're definitely both going to have a big presence on nominations morning.
um, yeah. But moving on, and this will be the last film critics one we talk about this week. I think we've got a lighter week next week. I don't think we've got much coming out, so we'll probably get through a whole bunch of these other critics groups and clear the slate for when it's a lot of these golds start coming out. But they have an award called the Cheese Steak Award for a movie to recognize a blockbuster that's hard to ignore. The runner-up was Godzilla -1, but the winner was Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Great movie. I loved it, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised it didn't do better at the box office, to be honest.
Yeah, that's shocking to me. That was really shocking to me. I thought that thing was going to be gangbusters at the box office.
I thought it was just going to be a repeat of Top Gun Maverick. You know,
I mean, I thought a lot of movies was going to be gangbusters at the box office this year.
yeah.
That really weren't. Look, and I think it's one of those ones. I think there's a lot of people that because Mission Impossible did come out like when the strike was sort of going. I think there's a lot of people that's like, you know what, we won't go see these industry movies because of how long they're dragging out the strike. But yeah, moving on to best ensemble, the runner up was Poor Things. The winner was Oppenheimer. That's pretty much standard. Best score / soundtrack. The runner up was Poor Things. The winner was Oppenheimer. Best screenplay was actually the reverse. The runner up was Oppenheimer. The winner was Poor Things. So it's going to look like we could have a bit of a showdown between Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Adapted. Best directorial debut. The runner-up was called Jefferson for American Fiction. The winner was Celine Song for Past Lives.
Yeah, those are the two that are getting a lot of love when it comes to first screenplay, except that the guy Avi Sachs or whatever for 1001, which has been weird.
Yeah. Best breakthrough performance. The runner-up was Abby Ryder Fortune for Hey There God, It's Me Margaret. The winner was Charles Melton for May December. I mean, just based on what I know about the actress Abby Ryder Fortune, I kind of wish it was the other way around. But it is what it is. I haven't seen either of the movies, so I can't really judge this either. But we've talked a lot about Melton as it was. Cinematography, the runner-up was Poor Things. The winner was Oppenheimer. Kind of expect that. Best documentary, the runner-up was still a Michael J. Fox movie. The winner was 20 Days in Mariupol.
Hey, it's a miracle.
I mean, I think there's a good chance we do still see both of those in documentary at the Oscars. But yeah, best foreign movie went. The runner-up was Anatomy of a Fall. The winner was The Boy and the Heron, which honestly kind of surprised me a little bit because even because Anatomy of a Fall is beginning a lot of these love and these critics foreign film things. Like both of these movies are not on the short. We're not eligible for the Oscars.
Nope.
But this it definitely bodes well for maybe Boy and the Heron, maybe getting into animated though. And then best animated movie, the runner-up was Robot Dreams. The winner was Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, Robot Dreams, I'll tell you, Malcolm, is a really sweet little movie. If you have a chance to see it, you're gonna love it. You might cry a little bit. It's got kind of the mundane animation, but the story is where it's really fantastic. It might not be your cup of tea, but you never know. But I definitely recommend anybody out there, if you have an opportunity to see Robot Dreams, I think you'll really like it. I liked it a lot. But
Yeah. Was it Charles Melton was the runner-up for Best Supporting Actor. The winner was Robert Downey Jr. Julianne Moore was the runner-up for Best Supporting Actress. The winner was Divine Joy Randolph. Jeffrey Wright was the runner-up for Best Actor, and the winner was Cillian Murphy. But it looks like Jeffrey Wright could maybe come up and be a big force at the Oscars.
we're starting to get the four. We're starting kind of to get the four main people that are going to get into Best Actor. It's that fifth slot. Who that fifth person is going to be? Is it Coleman Domingo? Is it Leonardo DiCaprio? You know, who is going to get into that fifth slot is going to be the big thing. I think we're kind of start Jeffrey Wright, Paul Giamatti, Bradley Cooper, Cillian Murphy are the main four here.
Honestly, I think if anyone misses, I think it's going to be Leo this year. I think Leo's been falling off a little bit.
I tried to tell you guys that. I tried to say that a long time ago. That I don't think Leo's going to get in for Best Actor. I think as the time goes by, you're going to start seeing more and more people that are souring on his performance, and that's what's been going on. Go ahead.
I think it's just like especially with some of these critics groups which they just give us the winners and the runners up. I think it's hard to say on what hours they had floating around there on whether Leo, because Leo has been getting nominated in a few of these places. So I think people are liking that performance enough, but not enough to give him the win.
Even he's going out of his way at like Q&As and stuff, Malcolm, to push Lily Gladstone and like give her the microphone and not take the spotlight himself. So that's kind of a suspicion on my part. That's like he knows that he sees the writing on the wall.
See, I will disagree with you slightly there. I think it's more because I think Leo's because I think it's more of a case of Leo sort of Leo knows that most people know what he's about. I think he wants people to hear more about from Lily, and try to help her getting that pushed into get nominated for Best Actress at all the same. So I don't think it's a case of Leo knows the writing on the wall that he might not get nominated. I think it's just a case he wants to help Lily get nominated by having more of her talk than because he doesn't need to talk himself up to get nominated. If the people love his performance, he's going to get nominated, and that's where it is.
All right.
I think it's just a case of not a lot of people know what Lily Gladstone's about. But moving on to Best Actress, Lily Gladstone was the runner up here. Emma Stone won for Poor Things. Best Director, Nolan was the runner-up for Oppenheimer. Yorgos Lanthimos won for Poor Things as well. Philadelphia really loved Poor Things. Is what I'm getting from here, because in Best Film, the runner-up was Oppenheimer. The winner was Poor Things. Philadelphia really loved Poor Things, and it's one of those ones that I think either way come Oscar night, but that is going to be the end of us for this week. Next week I think we've just got a whole bunch of critics groups to talk about, so I don't think there's much like in the way of like specialized guilds and that being coming out.
We're going to get into it the following week is where it's really going to start to get hot and heavy with award shows.
Yeah. Because I think with the whole like Christmas holiday and that, I think a lot of these guilds won't start meeting until first week of January, and so I think next we've just got a whole bunch of critics groups. Maybe if it comes out in time, we'll have the makeup artists and hairstyling awards. but as that comes out on January the 2nd, but whether or not it's out in time for us to talk about it that week, or it's going to join the massive week the week after. But Dan, where can people find you online?
Oh, you can find me under my name, Dan Skip Allen, on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Threads, Letterboxd, any variation of that, or my website, fromthefourthrow.com. I'm a film critic in Orlando, Florida. So I also write for disappointmentmedia.com. So those are the two places you can find my written reviews. I'll be having my top 10 TV shows of the year coming out this week. My top 10 movies coming out of the year this week. I'll be rolling them all out one at a time. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then always the final episode of My Life, My Love, 50 Years in Film. I'll be recording that this week, and that should be coming out soon. Hopefully, maybe people can watch and enjoy that one. That's going to be a live episode. I'm going to be recording that on Saturday night. So if anybody wants to chime in and watch, you can do that Saturday night. I'll have a link up, and hopefully I'll be able to share a link so people could watch while we're recording. But yeah, so all my end of the year stuff is coming out this week. I chose to wait towards the end of the year instead of like in the middle of the month of December, like a lot of people, because I wanted to make sure that I saw everything. And but yeah, that's where you can reach me. And every week on Gone with the Wind.
Lois, when you can find you online.
I'll keep it simple. MendesMovieReport.com. You can find some weekly written reviews, Oscar projections, list of classic movies, and if you need to find me on Facebook, Letterboxd, Threads, Twitter/X, Instagram, Mendes Movie RPT, and I'm hoping by the end of this week or so, I should be coming out with my own top 25 favorite films of the year out of the over 260 that I saw this year. So, yeah.
But yeah, you can find me on Hate Productions with hosting Rankin usually every week, but we're on a bit of a break at the moment. We will return on January the 6th, and it'll be where I will announce my top 12 of the year. And you can also find me popping up on Movie Hero Network and all over the place. I'll be on this week with a bit of an earlier show to doing an animated movies tournament, and yeah, but that is the end of the show for this week, and yeah, we'll see you next week. So
I didn't choose the skunk slime. The skunk slime chose me.